The moment Selena Marrow opened her mouth in flawless French and corrected the Mafia Boss in front of 4 international crime lords, she signed her own death warrant. Or so everyone thought. But what happened next in that blood-soaked Manhattan basement would shatter every rule the criminal underworld had written in Bodies and Fear. This is the story of a waitress who walked into a room full of monsters and left controlling all of them. If you want to see how far survival can push someone when they've got nothing left to lose, stay until the end. Drop a like and comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. Let's begin. Rain fell like punishment across Manhattan's skyline, hammering the glass towers until the whole city looked like it was melting under sheets of water and neon. Down below street level, where the real money moved and the real decisions got made, armored SUVs rolled through a private entrance that most people didn't even know existed. The kind of entrance that cost more than most people's houses just to install. The kind that only opened for people who could make other people disappear. Velvet Dominion didn't advertise, didn't need to. If you knew about it, you were either powerful enough to get in or smart enough to stay the hell away. The dining club sat 3 stories underground, accessible only through a network of tunnels that connected to luxury hotels and private buildings across the financial district. Gold chandeliers hung from ceilings that cost more per square foot than penthouses. Armed security stood at every corner, eyes scanning, hands resting near concealed weapons, watching for the wrong move, the wrong word, the wrong breath. Politicians ate here, cartel financiers, crime syndicate executives who controlled shipping routes and trafficking networks that stretched across continents. They negotiated over wine that cost more than cars, carved up territories over dessert, decided who lived and died between courses. And Selena Marrow moved through all of it like a ghost. 27 years old, 5'6", dark hair pulled back tight, wearing the standard black uniform that marked her as staff. Invisible. That's what they wanted. That's what she gave them. She balanced crystal glasses on silver trays, poured wine without making eye contact, cleared plates without being noticed. Her hands never shook. Her expression never changed. Professional, efficient, forgettable. But Selena Marrow had not always been forgettable. 6 years ago, she'd graduated top of her class from Columbia's Global Affairs Academy. Full scholarship. Fluent in 5 languages by the time she was 22, French, German, Italian, Russian, Mandarin. She could discuss international policy in any of them, could navigate the subtle linguistic landmines that separated diplomacy from disaster. Intelligence agencies had recruited her before she even walked across the graduation stage. State Department, CIA, private security firms that did work? Nobody talked about. The future had been golden, limitless, hers. Then her father's investment firm collapsed. Not failed. Collapsed. Imploded. Destroyed by a financial conspiracy so deep and so connected to organized crime that when federal investigators finally started asking questions, half of them ended up dead or reassigned. Her father lost everything: the house, the savings, the retirement accounts, everything. He'd been set up, used as a front for money laundering operations he never even knew existed. By the time he understood what was happening, it was too late. He had a heart attack 3 weeks after the indictment. Died in a hospital bed, still trying to explain that he hadn't known, hadn't understood, hadn't been part of it. Nobody believed him, and nobody cared. Selena's younger brother Marcus was 16 when it happened. Bright kid. Brilliant, actually. But he'd been in a car accident 2 years earlier, suffered traumatic brain injury that required ongoing neurological treatment, expensive treatment, the kind insurance companies found reasons not to cover, the kind that required cash payments and specialist appointments and medications that cost more per month than most people's rent. When the money disappeared, so did the treatment options. Selena watched her brother deteriorate, watched the seizures come back, watched him lose cognitive function, struggle with basic tasks, forget things he used to know, all because she couldn't afford the care he needed. So she took the first job she could find that paid in cash and didn't ask questions. Waitress. Not at some diner or casual restaurant. Those didn't pay enough. She needed the kind of place where tips came in hundreds, not 20s, where discretion was worth more than skill, where the clientele paid for silence as much as service. Velvet Dominion hired her within a week. She'd been there 4 years now, 4 years of serving people who trafficked weapons, moved drugs, controlled politicians, and ordered executions like they were ordering appetizers. 4 years of swallowing her intelligence, burying her education, pretending she didn't understand the conversations happening in multiple languages around her. 4 years of being invisible while monsters ruled the world. Tonight was supposed to be like any other night, until Massimo De Luca arrived. The name alone made people nervous. Massimo De Luca, head of the De Luca crime family, controlled shipping ports from New York to Naples, ran black market freight routes that moved everything from stolen art to human cargo, casinos, smuggling operations, international networks so vast and so embedded in legitimate business that law enforcement couldn't touch him without destabilizing entire economies. 48 years old, 6'2", built like someone who'd learned violence early and never forgotten the lessons. Silver gray hair cut military short, eyes that could freeze blood. He wore custom suits that cost more than most people made in a year, moved with the kind of confidence that came from knowing he could destroy anyone in the room without legal consequences. Rivals who crossed Massimo disappeared. Not arrested, not investigated, disappeared. Their families never found bodies, never got closure, just lived with the knowledge that someone they loved had been erased from existence because they'd made the mistake of challenging the wrong man. Politicians obeyed him. Federal agents looked the other way. Entire criminal families feared even speaking his name aloud, like saying it might summon him. And tonight, he was hosting a meeting that could reshape the international criminal underworld. 4 financiers from 4 different syndicates: French, German, Russian, Italian, each controlling different pieces of the global shipping infrastructure that moved illegal goods across borders, each powerful enough individually to start wars. Together, they could create a coalition that would dominate international smuggling for decades. But coalitions required trust, and trust required communication, and communication required precision, which is where everything started to fall apart. Selena had been assigned to the private dining room on the 3rd sublevel, the most secure room in Velvet Dominion, soundproofed walls, signal jammers, armed guards at every entrance, a massive mahogany table that seated 12, surrounded by leather chairs that probably cost more than her annual salary each. She'd served the room before, knew the drill: pour drinks, deliver food, disappear. Don't listen, don't remember, don't exist. But tonight felt different from the moment she walked in. The tension was immediate, physical. You could taste it in the air like copper. The 4 international syndicate leaders sat rigid in their chairs, expressions carefully neutral, but their body language screamed distrust. These were men who'd built empires on violence and paranoia, men who'd survived decades in a business where mistakes got you killed. They didn't trust each other, didn't trust Massimo, didn't trust anyone. And Massimo knew it. He sat at the head of the table, projecting absolute control, but Selena could see the calculation in his eyes. This meeting was critical. If it went well, he'd secure his position at the top of the criminal food chain for years. If it went badly, he'd lose face in front of the most dangerous people in the world. Everything had to be perfect, which is why he'd brought a professional translator. Young guy. Mid-20s, expensive suit, nervous energy. He sat to Massimo's right with a tablet and a strained expression, clearly out of his depth, but trying desperately not to show it. Selena recognized incompetence immediately. She'd worked with translators during her Columbia days. The good ones made it look effortless, moving between languages like breathing. This kid wasn't good. He was adequate at best. Probably spoke textbook versions of the languages, learned in classrooms, never tested in real conversations where context and subtext mattered as much as vocabulary. The meeting started with pleasantries. Wine poured, food ordered, small talk in English, the neutral ground language everyone spoke well enough to manage. But the real negotiation began in French. The French syndicate representative, a thin man in his 60s named Marcel Fontaine, started discussing port acquisition strategies in rapid Parisian French. Technical language, financial terminology, references to maritime law and customs regulations that required specific understanding. The translator stumbled immediately. Selena caught it from across the room where she stood with a wine bottle, ready to refill glasses. The kid translated acquisition as attack. Not a huge difference in casual conversation, but in a negotiation about taking control of shipping ports? Massive. It changed the entire meaning. Made it sound like Marcel was suggesting hostile military action instead of financial maneuvering. The Italian representative, a heavy-set man named Giancarlo Rossi, immediately stiffened. The translator kept going, not realizing the mistake. Marcel continued in French, laying out a complex proposal about coordinating customs inspections to create secure shipping corridors for moving contraband through legitimate freight channels. The translator butchered it. Completely. Made it sound like Marcel was suggesting they bribe customs officials to ignore all inspections entirely, which would be insane. That kind of blanket corruption would draw federal attention immediately. Giancarlo interrupted in Italian, voice sharp with suspicion. The translator tried to translate the Italian response back to French, but mixed up verb tenses and accidentally made it sound like Giancarlo was threatening Marcel's family. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Marcel's expression went cold. His hand moved slightly, a signal Selena recognized even though she'd never seen him before. Somewhere in this building, his security team was now on high alert. Massimo noticed. His jaw tightened. He glanced at the translator with barely concealed fury, but couldn't interrupt without making the situation worse. The German representative, a severe woman named Christina Bauer, began speaking in clipped German, trying to de-escalate. But the translator's German was even worse than his French. He confused formal and informal pronouns, accidentally made her sound disrespectful, used the wrong verb conjugation, and completely changed the meaning of her sentence. Now 3 of the 4 syndicate leaders looked insulted. The Russian, Nikolai Volkov, hadn't spoken yet. He sat at the far end of the table, massive shoulders relaxed, hands folded, cold blue eyes watching everything with the patience of a predator who knew wounded prey would eventually make a fatal mistake. Selena felt her heartbeat accelerate. Not from fear, from frustration. She was watching a critically important negotiation collapse in real time because of incompetent translation, and there was nothing she could do about it. Except there was. She'd spent 4 years being invisible, 4 years swallowing her intelligence, pretending she didn't understand, staying silent while the world moved around her. But watching this disaster unfold triggered something deeper than survival instinct. This was waste. Pure, stupid, unnecessary waste. These men were monsters, yes, but the negotiation itself was actually elegant. Complex coordination across international criminal networks, requiring sophisticated understanding of maritime law, customs regulations, financial systems, and underground logistics. It was the kind of problem she used to solve at Columbia, the kind of puzzle that had made her fall in love with international affairs in the first place. And this idiot translator was destroying it. Marcel said something in French, his tone now openly hostile. The translator hesitated, clearly lost. Massimo's expression turned to stone, and Selena opened her mouth. That translation was wrong. Her voice cut through the tension like a blade. Every head in the room turned toward her instantly. The translator stared at her in confusion. The syndicate leaders looked surprised. The security guards shifted position, hands moving toward weapons. And Massimo De Luca's ice-blue eyes locked onto her with an intensity that would have killed weaker people just from the pressure. The silence stretched. Absolute. Suffocating. Selena's brain screamed at her to apologize, to back down, to remember her place. She was a waitress. Invisible. Forgettable. Speaking out of turn in a room like this could get her killed. Would get her killed, but she'd already spoken, and backing down now would just make it worse. Massimo stood slowly. 6'2" of controlled violence and absolute authority. He walked toward her with measured steps, each footfall deliberate, his presence filling the space like a physical force. He stopped 3 feet away. "What did you say?" His voice was quiet, conversational, which made it more terrifying than shouting. Selena's mouth had gone dry, but her voice came out steady. The translation was wrong. He said acquisition strategy, not attack strategy. And the part about customs inspections, he's talking about coordinated timing, not wholesale bribery. Massimo stared at her. Everyone stared at her. Then he smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "You speak French?" "Yes." "And you understood Monsieur Fontaine's proposal?" "Yes." "How much?" "All of it." The smile disappeared. His expression went flat. Dangerous. "How long have you worked here?" 4 years. 4 years. He repeated it slowly. 4 years of serving this room, hearing conversations, understanding them. And you never mentioned that you speak French? Selena met his eyes. You never asked. Someone at the table made a sound that might have been a suppressed laugh. Massimo's jaw clenched. The veins in his neck stood out. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, see the tiny scar above his left eyebrow, feel the heat of his anger radiating like furnace blast. When he spoke, his voice could have etched glass. Let me explain something very carefully. You are a waitress. You pour drinks. You deliver food. You stay invisible unless I specifically ask you to speak. You do not interrupt negotiations between people who could buy and sell your entire bloodline. You do not question my translator. You do not embarrass me in front of my associates. Do you understand? Selena should have apologized, should have lowered her eyes, mumbled, "Yes, sir," and backed away. But something in her refused. Maybe it was 4 years of swallowing humiliation. Maybe it was watching her intelligence rot while she served criminals. Maybe it was the memory of who she used to be, the person she'd buried to survive. Or maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe she was just tired of being afraid. She raised her eyes to meet his. "I understand," she said quietly. "But the translation is still wrong, and if it continues, this negotiation will fail before you finish the second course." The room went absolutely silent. Massimo stared at her like he couldn't quite believe what he was hearing. His hands flexed. For a moment, Selena thought he might actually hit her. Then Marcel Fontaine spoke. "She is correct." Everyone turned toward the French syndicate leader. He was watching Selena with open interest, his earlier hostility replaced by curiosity. "The translation has been terrible," Marcel continued in accented English. "I have been considering walking out. If this young woman understands what I actually said," he gestured toward Selena, "perhaps she should translate instead." The translator made a sound of protest. Massimo's expression turned murderous, but Christina Bauer nodded slowly. "I agree. The German translation has also been inadequate." Giancarlo grunted. "Italian, too." All eyes turned to Nikolai Volkov. The Russian crime lord had been silent throughout the entire exchange, just watching with those cold blue eyes. Now he leaned forward slightly, massive forearms resting on the table. When he spoke, it was in Russian. Fast, complex Russian with a Moscow accent, testing her. Selena answered in the same dialect without hesitation, her pronunciation perfect. Nikolai's eyebrows rose. He asked another question, more complicated, using technical terminology related to shipping routes and port logistics. Selena responded fluently, not just translating, but demonstrating understanding of the actual concepts. A slow smile spread across Nikolai's face. "Interesting." He switched to English. "Massimo, where did you find this woman?" Massimo looked like he wanted to murder everyone in the room, starting with Selena. But he was trapped. The 4 syndicate leaders were now more interested in her than in the negotiation. And if he removed her by force, he'd insult them. If he let her continue, she'd undermine his authority. There was no good move, which meant Selena had just done the impossible. She'd cornered Massimo De Luca. The Mafia Emperor stood rigid, every muscle tight with controlled fury, staring at the waitress who'd just destroyed his carefully constructed authority in front of the most dangerous people in the Western Hemisphere. And Selena stared back, her heart hammering, her hands steady, knowing that she'd just crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Massimo's silence lasted exactly 7 seconds. Selena counted them. 7 seconds where nobody breathed, nobody moved, nobody even blinked. The kind of silence that preceded violence. Then he turned away from her. Just turned, walked back to his seat at the head of the table, sat down, straightened his cuffs. His face was completely blank now, wiped clean of emotion, which was somehow worse than the fury. "Remove your jacket," he said quietly. Selena's stomach dropped. That phrase had meaning in rooms like this. Remove your jacket, strip away the uniform, mark yourself as separate, as punished, as example. Her hands moved to the buttons automatically, muscle memory from 4 years of following orders without question. The black server's jacket came off. Underneath, she wore a simple white shirt, long-sleeved, professional. She folded the jacket carefully, precisely, her training taking over even as her brain screamed warnings. "Put it on the chair beside me." She walked forward. Every eye in the room tracked her movement. The The security guards had shifted position, hands near weapons, but not on them, waiting for the signal. The syndicate leaders watched with the detached interest of people who'd seen executions before and found them mildly entertaining. Selina placed the jacket on the empty chair to Massimo's right. The translator had vacated it, retreating to stand against the wall, looking relieved and terrified simultaneously. "Sit," Massimo said. She sat. The leather chair was still warm. She could smell the translator's nervous sweat on it. Her own heart hammered so hard she could feel it in her throat, but she kept her hands folded in her lap, her breathing controlled, her expression neutral. Massimo gestured to Marcel. "Continue your proposal." In French. She'll translate. It wasn't a request. Marcel studied Selina for a long moment, those sharp gray eyes reading her the way predators read prey. Then he smiled slightly and began speaking. His French was beautiful, rapid, complex, full of subtle linguistic flourishes that marked him as educated, cultured, dangerous. He laid out a comprehensive strategy for coordinating shipping routes across the Mediterranean, using legitimate freight companies as cover for moving high-value contraband. Weapons, currency, rare materials that couldn't be sourced legally. He referenced specific ports, specific customs officials, specific timing windows when security would be weakest. Selina translated into English as he spoke, keeping pace effortlessly, her voice steady. She didn't just convert words, she preserved tone, implication, the subtle threats wrapped in professional language. When Marcel made a joke at the expense of Italian customs enforcement, she caught the humor and the insult simultaneously. Giancarlo stiffened, but nodded appreciation for the accurate translation. Marcel finished, looked at Selina. "Parfait," he said. "Perfect." Christina spoke next, in German. Her proposal focused on Northern European routes, cold-weather shipping corridors through Scandinavia and the Baltic states. Technical, precise, full of logistics terminology that required understanding of maritime law and climate-specific shipping challenges. Selina translated it flawlessly. Then Giancarlo presented the Italian syndicate's position, speaking rapid Neapolitan-accented Italian that was deliberately difficult to follow. A test. Seeing if she could handle dialects as well as textbook language. She could. By the time Nikolai began speaking in Russian, the dynamic in the room had completely shifted. The syndicate leaders were no longer talking to each other through Massimo. They were talking to each other through Selina, looking at her when they spoke, waiting for her translation before responding, trusting her accuracy more than they'd ever trusted the previous translator. And with each passing minute, Massimo's grip on the negotiation weakened. Nikolai's Russian was a different animal entirely. Moscow street dialect mixed with formal business terminology, peppered with idioms that didn't translate directly. He talked about frozen shipping routes through Murmansk, about cargo vessels that could break ice, about survival in conditions that killed unprepared crews. His voice was rough, like gravel scraped across metal, but his words carried weight. "We control the north," he said in Russian. "Everything that moves through frozen water moves through us. You want access, you pay the cold tax. You want protection, you pay more. You want both, you give us partnership terms, not subordinate terms." Selina translated, preserving the implicit threat. Marcel frowned. "Partnership implies equal standing. Your northern routes are valuable, but limited seasonal access. Our Mediterranean presence is year-round. Year-round and under constant surveillance," Nikolai shot back in Russian. "Every intelligence agency in Europe watches the Mediterranean. The north is dark 6 months of the year, perfect for cargo that needs to disappear." Christina interjected in German. "Both positions have merit. The question is coordination. Do we operate as separate entities sharing intelligence, or as a unified network with centralized logistics?" "Centralized control means someone has final authority," Giancarlo said in Italian. "Who? You? Him?" He gestured at Massimo. "The Russians? Because I don't take orders from anyone." The temperature dropped again. These were men and women who'd built empires by refusing to bow. Asking them to create hierarchy was like asking wolves to elect a pack leader. Possible, but bloody. Selina translated everything exactly as spoken, including the challenge in Giancarlo's voice. Massimo finally spoke. "Nobody gives orders. We coordinate, share resources, divide territories by expertise. Each syndicate maintains operational control of their region, but we standardize protocols, share customs contacts, and create backup routes across all regions. It was a good proposal. Reasonable. Smart. But Marcel shook his head. Standardized protocols require someone to write them. Shared contacts require someone to manage relationships. Backup routes require someone to coordinate timing. You're describing centralized logistics without calling it that. Then what do you suggest? Massimo's voice had an edge now. I suggest we need someone neutral. Someone with no existing territory to protect. Someone intelligent enough to coordinate complex international operations without favoring one syndicate over others. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Christina smiled. You're suggesting we hire someone. I'm suggesting we hire her. Marcel pointed at Selena. The room went silent again. Selena's brain short-circuited. Whatever she'd expected, it wasn't that. These were international crime lords discussing a multi-billion-dollar alliance, and they wanted to put a waitress in charge of coordinating it? Except she wasn't just a waitress. They'd seen that now. Heard it in her translations, in the way she understood not just language, but context, strategy, the chess game underneath the words. Massimo laughed, sharp, humorless. Absolutely not. Why not? Nikolai asked in Russian, then repeated in accented English for the others. She understands the business, speaks all our languages, has no existing territorial interests. Seems perfect. She's a waitress, Massimo said flatly. She's more than that. Marcel was still watching Selena with that unsettling intensity. Anyone can see it. The question is, what were you before you started serving drinks? Selena met his eyes. Her first instinct was to lie, to maintain the cover story she'd built over 4 years. But that cover was already burning. They'd seen through it the moment she opened her mouth. Columbia, she said quietly. Global Affairs Academy. Graduated top of my class. Was recruited by intelligence agencies before the degree finished. And you're working here because? Family emergency. Needed money fast. This job paid cash and didn't ask questions. What kind of emergency? Christina asked, her German accent making the question sound clinical. Selena hesitated. This was personal. Private. The kind of vulnerability that got exploited in rooms like this, but they were already going to exploit her either way. Might as well control the narrative. My younger brother has a neurological condition, requires expensive ongoing treatment. I pay for it. Nikolai grunted. Loyalty to family, good quality. Massimo slammed his hand on the table. The sound cracked like a gunshot. Wine glasses jumped. This is insane, he said, voice tight with controlled fury. We're here to formalize a multi-billion-dollar shipping alliance, and you want to hand coordination authority to someone we met 20 minutes ago? Someone who's been eavesdropping on private conversations for 4 years? Better than someone who brought an incompetent translator to the most important negotiation of the decade, Marcel said mildly. Massimo's face flushed. That's true, Christina interrupted. This meeting was nearly destroyed before it began. Your translator insulted 3 different syndicates within the first 15 minutes. If she hadn't spoken up, we'd all be walking out right now, possibly shooting each other on the way to our cars. She embarrassed me, Massimo said quietly. Dangerously. You embarrassed yourself, Giancarlo replied in Italian. Selena translated, keeping her voice neutral even as the words cut. Massimo stood up slowly, 6'2" of barely contained violence. His hand moved to his jacket, not quite touching the weapon everyone knew was there, but close enough to send a message. I built this alliance, he said, each word precise. I reached out to each of you. I organized this meeting. I created the opportunity for all of us to profit, and you're going to sit here and insult me? In my city? At my table? Your table, Nikolai repeated in Russian, then switched to English. But not your negotiation anymore. Not since she proved she's smarter than everyone you brought. The security guard shifted. Massimo's personal team tensed. The syndicate leader's bodyguard, stationed outside the room but certainly monitoring, would be moving into position now. This could turn into a bloodbath in seconds. Selena realized with cold clarity that she'd created this. By speaking up, by correcting the translation, by being competent in a room where her competence threatened the established power structure. She'd lit the fuse. Now she was sitting at ground zero watching it burn, Marcel raised his hand slightly, a calming gesture. Let's not be dramatic. Massimo, you are correct that you organized this alliance. Your contribution is valuable, but coordination requires specific skills she clearly possesses and your translator did not. So we replaced the translator, Massimo said. Fine. She translates for the rest of tonight. Tomorrow she goes back to serving drinks, and we hire someone properly vetted. No, Christina said simply. Massimo turned to her. No. If she walks out of this room tonight, someone else will hire her. Probably one of us. Probably me, because I recognize talent when I see it. Then she'll be coordinating operations for a single syndicate instead of all four, which defeats the entire purpose of this alliance. Or, Giancarlo added in Italian, he kills her to prevent that, which would make all of us very angry because we've decided she's useful. Selina translated his words, her voice steady despite the ice flooding her veins. Giancarlo was right. Massimo had exactly two options now. Let her leave and risk her working for a rival, or kill her and insult every syndicate leader at the table. Both options destroyed him. And he knew it. She could see it in his eyes. The moment of realization. The understanding that he'd lost control of the situation completely, and there was no move that got it back. Nikolai leaned back in his chair, making it creak under his weight. Here's what happens, he said in English, speaking slowly so everyone understood. She works for the Alliance, not for Massimo, not for any of us individually, for all of us. Neutral party, coordinates shipping routes, manages customs contacts, handles timing across all territories. And gets paid how much? Massimo's voice was bitter. Enough to matter, Marcel said. Enough that she has a reason to stay loyal. What do you need? This last question directed at Selina. She should have asked for money. That's what they expected. Everyone in this room understood greed. It was the universal language of the criminal underworld. But Selina had stopped caring about normal calculations the moment she opened her mouth to correct the translator. Full medical coverage for my brother, she said. Whatever treatment he needs, wherever he needs it, for as long as he lives. Guaranteed in writing. Done, Christina said immediately. What else? Debt forgiveness. My family lost everything 6 years ago, still drowning in legal fees and medical bills. I want it erased. How much? Nikolai asked. Selina named the number. It was substantial, the kind of debt that took decades to clear through normal means. Nikolai shrugged. That's nothing. What else? A title. Not assistant, not coordinator. If I'm managing an international criminal alliance, I want a position that reflects that reality. Director of Operations. Full authority to make decisions about logistics, timing, and resource allocation. Absolutely not, Massimo said immediately. Then the alliance fails, Marcel replied calmly. Because I'm not trusting coordination to someone with no authority. Either she has decision-making power or this is pointless. She could betray us, Massimo argued, feed information to law enforcement, destroy everything. So could anyone, Giancarlo said in Italian. So could you. So could your translator, who just ran out of the room terrified. At least she has something to lose. Her brother. Her freedom. Her life. That's more leverage than most people. Christina nodded. He's right. She's invested now. Probably more invested than you are, Massimo, because you already have an empire. She's building from nothing. People building from nothing fight harder to protect what they create. This is insane, Massimo repeated, but his voice had lost its edge. He sounded tired now, defeated. This is business, Nikolai said in Russian. Selina translated, though everyone probably understood the tone, if not the words. Massimo looked at Selina, really looked at her, like he was seeing her for the first time, not as a waitress, not as an interruption, as a threat, as competition, as the person who'd just destroyed his carefully constructed authority in front of the most dangerous people he knew. You understand what you're agreeing to? He asked quietly. Selina met his eyes. Yes. You'll be managing criminal operations, international smuggling, working with people who kill for a living. There's no walking away from this. No going back to serving drinks and pretending you're innocent. You take this position, you become part of it, permanently. I understand. And if you betray us, your brother dies first, slowly, then everyone you've ever cared about. Then you, also slowly. Do you understand that? Yes. His smile was cold. Then welcome to the business, Director Marrow. The title sounded wrong in his mouth, mocking. But the contract was already forming. She could see it in the way the syndicate leaders relaxed slightly, in the way Christina pulled out her phone to make notes, in the way Marcel poured himself more wine, like the hard part was over. They'd made a decision, hired her, trapped her, and she'd let them. No. That wasn't quite true. She hadn't let them. She'd engineered it, opened her mouth knowing exactly what would happen, knowing it would cascade into this moment where she'd have to choose between survival and intelligence, between safety and opportunity. She'd chosen opportunity, which meant Massimo was right. There was no going back now. The next 3 hours blurred together. The syndicate leaders discussed operational details, territory divisions, communication protocols. Selena took notes on the translator's abandoned tablet, organizing information, asking clarifying questions, demonstrating the competence they'd hired her for. Marcel's French syndicate controlled Mediterranean routes and had deep connections with North African smuggling networks. Christina's German operation managed Northern European shipping and specialized in high-value cargo that required climate-controlled transport. Giancarlo's Italian family ran the Adriatic and had unparalleled access to corrupt customs officials throughout southern Europe. Nikolai's Russian Empire dominated frozen routes and could move cargo through regions where Western intelligence agencies had minimal presence. Together, they represented a network capable of moving anything anywhere. Weapons, drugs, currency, people, stolen art, illegal technology, rare materials. If it could be shipped, they could ship it invisibly, using legitimate freight companies as cover. The alliance would standardize protocols across all territories, share intelligence about law enforcement activity, create backup routes so if one corridor got compromised, cargo could be rerouted immediately, coordinate timing so customs officials in multiple countries could be bribed simultaneously, creating windows where entire shipments moved through international waters without inspection. It was elegant, terrifyingly elegant, and Selena was now responsible for making it work. Around midnight, the meeting finally broke. The syndicate leaders stood, shook hands with the careful formality of people who might kill each other tomorrow, but were allies tonight. They each gave Selena their private contact information, numbers that probably changed weekly, encrypted channels that required specific protocols to access. "Call me next week," Christina said in German. "We'll discuss the Norwegian routes. I need details about your Mediterranean contacts," Marcel added in French. "The Italian customs officials specifically." Giancarlo grunted. "Don't trust her with those names until she's proven herself." "She's already proven herself," Nikolai said in Russian. "She embarrassed Massimo De Luca and lived. That's proof enough." They laughed, all except Massimo. He sat at the head of the table, silent, watching Selena with an expression she couldn't quite read. Not rage anymore. Something colder, more calculated. The syndicate leaders left with their security teams, expensive cars pulling away into the Manhattan rain. The dining room emptied. Security guards returned to their normal positions. The mahogany table got cleared by other servers who avoided looking at Selena directly, like she'd become radioactive. Finally, only Massimo remained. He stood slowly, buttoned his suit jacket, straightened his cuffs, walked around the table toward her with measured steps. Selena forced herself not to move, not to flinch. She'd won the negotiation, but she was still in his territory, in his building, surrounded by his people. He stopped 3 feet away. "You're smart," he said quietly. "I'll give you that. Smart enough to recognize opportunity. Smart enough to seize it. Smart enough to manipulate 4 international crime lords into hiring you on the spot. I didn't manipulate anyone. I just translated accurately. You did more than translate. You demonstrated competence, made yourself indispensable, forced them to choose between hiring you and watching their alliance collapse. That's not translation. That's strategy." Selena didn't respond. There was nothing to say that wouldn't make this worse. "But here's what you don't understand," Massimo continued, his voice dropping even lower. "Those men don't trust you. They trust your usefulness. The moment you stop being useful, you stop being alive. And making yourself useful means succeeding at an impossible job. Coordinating operations across 4 different criminal syndicates who hate each other, managing logistics for illegal cargo worth billions, avoiding law enforcement in a dozen countries simultaneously. One mistake, and you're done. Not fired. Done. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you just traded a safe job for a death sentence with better pay. The safe job was killing me slowly, Selena said. This might kill me fast, but at least I'll be using my brain before I die. He studied her face for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. You remind me of someone, he said. Who? Me. 20 years ago. Before I learned that intelligence without power just gets you killed by people with more power and less intelligence. He turned and walked toward the door, stopped with his hand on the frame. One more thing, he said without turning around. You humiliated me tonight, in front of people whose respect I spent decades earning. I don't forget things like that, ever. So understand that we're not colleagues now, we're not allies, we're enemies who happen to work together, and the moment this alliance doesn't need you anymore, I'll kill you myself. I know, Selena said quietly. Good, long as we understand each other. He left. The door closed with a soft click that sounded like a cell locking. Selena sat alone in the empty dining room, surrounded by crystal glasses and gold chandeliers and the lingering smell of expensive wine. Her hands were shaking now, the adrenaline finally catching up, 4 hours of controlled terror releasing all at once. She'd done it. Somehow. Impossibly. She'd walked into this room as a waitress and was leaving as the director of an international criminal alliance. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered carefully. Selena Marrow? A woman's voice, professional, cold. Yes. My name is Victoria Chen. I represent a private medical group. We received instructions to contact you regarding comprehensive neurological care for a Marcus Marrow. Is this still required? Selena's throat tightened. Yes. Excellent. We'll have a team at his current facility tomorrow morning to begin evaluation. All costs covered indefinitely. You'll receive contract details within the hour. We'll also need your family's debt information to process forgiveness paperwork. How did you get this number? Christina Bauer provided it, along with payment authorization. Is there anything else you need? Selena closed her eyes. No, thank you. We'll be in touch. The line went dead. It was real. They'd actually done it. Her brother would get treatment. The debt would disappear. Everything she'd been drowning in for 6 years would be gone by morning. All she had to do was successfully coordinate international criminal operations worth billions of dollars while avoiding law enforcement, managing 4 psychotic crime lords who barely trusted each other, and staying alive despite Massimo De Luca's explicit promise to kill her. Simple. Her phone buzzed again. Different number. She answered. Director Marrow? Nikolai's rough voice in Russian. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., meet me at the following address. We need to discuss the Murmansk routes before the Norwegian authorities realize what we're planning. Don't be late. Russians hate lateness. He hung up before she could respond. Then Marcel texted in French. Thursday lunch, discuss Mediterranean customs protocols. I'm sending a car. Then Giancarlo. Need Italian contact list verified by Friday. Call me. They weren't wasting time. The alliance was already moving forward, and she was expected to keep pace. No training period. No grace period for learning the business. They'd hired her for competence, and competence meant performing immediately. Selena stood on shaking legs, picked up her server's jacket from the chair where she'd left it 4 hours ago, folded it carefully, set it on the table. She wouldn't need it anymore. The walk from the dining room to the underground parking garage took 5 minutes. Her car was a 15-year-old Honda that barely ran, parked in the employee section between BMWs and Mercedes that cost more than her annual salary used to. Used to. Past tense. She wasn't a waitress anymore. She unlocked the car, sat in the driver's seat, and just breathed for a while. In and out, steady, controlled. The way she'd learned to breathe during panic attacks after her father died, after Marcus got sick, after everything fell apart and she had to rebuild from nothing. Her phone lit up with an encrypted email. Contract details. Director of Operations, International Logistics Coordination. Salary that made her eyes water. Medical coverage. Debt forgiveness agreements. All official, all legal looking despite being completely illegal. And at the bottom, a clause in small print. Employment termination results in immediate asset forfeiture and contract nullification. Breach of confidentiality will be considered grounds for termination. All parties reserve the right to enforce contractual obligations through any means deemed necessary. Translation: if you quit, your brother loses treatment and debt comes back. If you talk, we kill you. She signed it anyway, because what choice did she have? She'd already made the choice 4 hours ago when she opened her mouth. Everything after that was just paperwork. Selena started the car. The engine coughed, sputtered, caught. She pulled out of the garage into Manhattan rain that had finally started to ease, the city washing itself clean while staying fundamentally dirty underneath. Her phone buzzed one more time. Another unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but instinct made her pick up. Selena Marrow? A man's voice. American accent. Professional but different from the medical coordinator. This voice had authority embedded in it. Government authority. Her blood went cold. Who is this? Special Agent David Morrison, FBI. We need to talk about your new employment with the DeLuca organization. And before you hang up, we know about your brother. We know about the debt. We know you're in an impossible situation. We're not calling to arrest you. We're calling to offer you a way out. Selena's hands tightened on the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. You just accepted a position coordinating illegal operations for 4 international crime syndicates. You're now connected to smuggling networks, money laundering operations, and criminal infrastructure spanning 3 continents, which means you have access to information that could destroy some of the most dangerous criminal organizations in the Western Hemisphere. I'm not interested. Not interested in protecting your brother? Because the medical treatment you arranged? That's being paid for with money from weapons trafficking, drug smuggling, and human cargo. When the alliance goes down, and it will go down, everyone connected to it goes down too, including people receiving benefits from criminal proceeds. Your brother included. Selena pulled over. Couldn't drive and have this conversation simultaneously. The rain had started again, hammering the windshield, turning the streetlights into blurred halos. What do you want? She asked quietly. Information. Nothing immediately. Nothing that would expose you. Just when things happen, when you learn things, you tell us. Help us build a case. And when the time comes to move against the alliance, we make sure you and your brother are protected. New identities, witness protection, clean slate. And if I say no, then you're part of a criminal conspiracy. When we bring down the alliance, and we will, with or without your help, you go to prison along with everyone else. Your brother loses his treatment. Your family stays destroyed. Is that what you want? It wasn't a threat. It was just reality, delivered calmly by someone who'd had this conversation before with other people in impossible situations. Selena closed her eyes. 4 hours ago, she'd been a waitress. Now she was a criminal director being recruited as an FBI informant. The night had officially crossed from surreal into nightmare territory. I need time to think. You have 24 hours. After that, we assume you've chosen your side. And Selena? His voice softened slightly. I know this seems impossible, but you're smart. Smart enough to correct translations in front of mafia bosses. Smart enough to negotiate your way into a position that didn't exist before tonight. You're smart enough to survive this. The question is how? On our side or theirs? He hung up. Selena sat in her dying Honda in the rain, contract signed, phone full of encrypted messages from international crime lords, FBI agent's number glowing on her screen. No way forward, no way back. Trapped between criminal empires and federal investigation, between protecting her brother and protecting herself, between survival and conscience. And somewhere across the city, Massimo DeLuca was probably planning exactly how he'd kill her when the opportunity came. She thought correcting that translation was the point of no return. She'd been wrong. This was. Selena didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Massimo's face, heard Special Agent Morrison's calm voice, felt the weight of signatures still drying on contracts that would either save her or destroy her. By 5 a.m., she gave up trying. Made coffee in the tiny kitchen of her studio apartment, the same place she'd lived for 4 years because moving cost money she didn't have. The walls were thin enough to hear neighbors fighting, the heating barely worked, and the lock on the front door could be picked by anyone with 10 minutes and a paperclip. But it was hers, or had been. Now, everything was different. The medical coordinator had already called twice during the night with updates about Marcus. They'd transferred him to a private neurological facility in Connecticut, the kind of place that cost $50,000 a month. State-of-the-art equipment, specialists flown in from Switzerland, treatment protocols that didn't even exist in standard hospitals. Her brother was getting help, real help, for the first time in 6 years, all because she'd sold herself to monsters. Her phone buzzed. 6 a.m. Nikolai's meeting was in 3 hours. She needed to shower, dress, figure out how to look like someone who coordinated international criminal operations instead of someone who'd served drinks yesterday. The phone kept buzzing. Not a call. Messages. Encrypted channels activating, notifications piling up from syndicate leaders who apparently didn't believe in normal business hours. Marcel, morning director, sending preliminary Mediterranean cargo schedules. Need your analysis by noon. Christina, Norwegian customs situation developing. Call me immediately. Giancarlo, Italian police increase port surveillance. We need to discuss alternative routes. They were testing her, seeing if she could actually handle the impossible job they'd hired her for, seeing if last night's competence was real or performance. Selena opened the files Marcel sent. Shipping schedules for legitimate freight companies, dozens of cargo vessels moving through Mediterranean ports over the next 6 weeks. Except these weren't legitimate. She could see it in the patterns, the timing, the way certain ships appeared in multiple ports with cargo manifests that didn't quite make sense. These were the cover vessels, the ones carrying contraband hidden inside legal freight, and she was supposed to coordinate all of it. Her Columbia training kicked in automatically. She'd spent 4 years studying international logistics, maritime law, customs regulations. This was just applied theory, illegal applied theory, but the principles were identical. She made notes, identified potential conflicts where timing overlapped, spotted 3 different shipments that would arrive at Barcelona within the same 12-hour window, which would concentrate too much attention, suggested staggered arrivals, rerouting one vessel through Marseille instead. Professional, competent. Exactly what they'd hired her for. She sent the analysis to Marcel at 6:45 a.m. His response came back in 90 seconds. Excellent. Implement the changes. Just like that. She'd just redirected a cargo vessel carrying God knew what illegal materials worth God knew how much money, and the only confirmation she got was a 2-word approval. Welcome to the business. Selena showered, dressed in clothes that felt wrong. She didn't own business attire. Everything in her closet was server uniforms or casual jeans and t-shirts. She settled on black pants and a dark gray blouse, simple but professional enough. Looked at herself in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Yesterday, she'd been invisible. Today, she needed to be authoritative. The transformation felt impossible. Her phone rang. Not a text. An actual call. Unknown number, but the area code was local. She answered carefully. Miss Marrow? A young woman's voice, nervous. This is Jennifer Walsh. I'm calling from Clearview Neurological Center in Connecticut about your brother Marcus. Selena's stomach clenched. Is he okay? He's fine. Better than fine, actually. The new treatment protocol is already showing positive response. But there's been a complication. What kind of complication? A man came to visit him this morning, said he was a family friend. Our security let him in because he had proper identification and knew details about Marcus's condition. But when I went to check on them, your brother seemed agitated. The visitor left before I could speak with him, and Marcus won't tell me what they discussed. He just keeps saying to call you immediately. Ice flooded Selena's veins. Describe the visitor. Tall, well-dressed, silver-gray hair, very polite but intimidating. Our security guard said he had an Italian accent. Massimo. Put Marcus on the phone. Shuffling sounds, then her brother's voice, shaky and confused. Selena? What's happening? That man said things. Said you were working for him now. Said the treatment I'm getting comes with conditions. What did you do? Selena closed her eyes. Her brother was 22, but the neurological damage made him cognitively younger, more vulnerable. He didn't understand the criminal world, didn't know about Velvet Dominion or the Alliance or any of it. She'd kept him protected, separate, innocent, and Massimo had just destroyed that protection. Marcus, listen to me carefully. You're safe. The treatment is real. Nobody's going to hurt you, but I need you to do exactly what I say. Don't talk to any visitors unless I approve them first. If that man comes back, you tell the nurses immediately. Understand? You're scaring me. I know, I'm sorry, but you have to trust me. Can you do that? I guess. But Selena, he said if you betrayed him, bad things would happen. What does that mean? It means nothing. He's just trying to intimidate me. You focus on getting better. I'll handle everything else. She hung up before he could ask more questions. Her hands were shaking again. Not from fear, from rage. Pure, incandescent rage. Massimo had gone after her brother. Not directly, not violently. But the message was clear. She was being watched. Her family was accessible. Step out of line and the consequences wouldn't just hit her. The FBI agent's words echoed in her head. We can protect you. Witness protection. New identities. But could they? Really? These were international crime syndicates with resources that matched government agencies. They had contacts inside law enforcement, political connections, intelligence networks. If she tried to run, tried to hide, they'd find her. They'd already proven they could reach Marcus in a secure medical facility within 12 hours of her signing the contract. Running wasn't an option, which meant the only way forward was through. Selena grabbed her jacket, her bag, the tablet full of encrypted communications from crime lords, locked her apartment, and headed to the subway. The meeting with Nikolai was in Brooklyn, some warehouse district address that probably wasn't on any official maps. The train was crowded with morning commuters. Normal people going to normal jobs, drinking coffee, reading news on their phones, completely unaware that the woman standing next to them was now coordinating illegal cargo shipments worth billions. She wondered what they'd think if they knew. Would they be horrified, fascinated? Would they understand that sometimes survival meant becoming exactly what you swore you'd never be? Probably not. Most people never had to make that choice. The warehouse was exactly what she'd expected. Abandoned industrial building near the waterfront, windows broken, graffiti covering brick walls. But the inside had been renovated recently. Climate-controlled storage, security systems, loading docks with direct water access, a legitimate front for illegitimate business. Nikolai waited inside with 3 other men, Russians, based on their appearance and the way they stood. Military bearing, predator eyes. They watched Selena enter like wolves assessing prey. Director Marrow, Nikolai said in Russian. Punctual. Good. She answered in Russian. You said you hate lateness. He smiled, revealing gold teeth. I lied. Russians are always late, but I wanted to see if you'd believe me. Why? To test whether you know Russian culture or just Russian language. Language you can learn from books. Culture requires immersion, understanding. You passed. One of the other men said something in rapid Russian, too fast and too dialectical for Selena to catch completely. Something about whether she could actually handle the northern routes. Nikolai waved him off. She'll learn. Come. I'll show you why the frozen routes matter. He led her through the warehouse to a back office that had been converted into a command center. Computer screens showing shipping data, satellite imagery of Arctic waters, weather tracking systems. It looked like a military operation. The North is different, Nikolai explained, switching to accented English so she'd understand technical details clearly. Most smuggling happens through warm water ports, Mediterranean, Caribbean, Southeast Asia. Everyone watches those. Competition is intense. Profit margins get squeezed. He pulled up a map of Arctic shipping routes. But frozen routes? Nobody wants them. Too cold. Too dangerous. Ice crushes ships that aren't prepared. Storms kill entire crews. It's miserable work. Which makes it perfect for smuggling, Selena said. Exactly. We control ports in Murmansk, Arkhangelsk, Dudinka. Cities nobody's heard of. During winter, these routes are basically invisible. Satellite coverage is poor. Coast Guard presence is minimal. International oversight is non-existent. He zoomed in on specific shipping corridors. We can move anything through here. Weapons, rare earth minerals, technology that's banned in Western countries, all hidden in legitimate cargo vessels carrying fish, timber, mineral ore. Nobody checks because nobody cares about frozen Russian exports. Selena studied the maps. The routes were brilliant. Complicated, requiring precise timing and specialized vessels, but brilliant. Ships could disappear into Arctic darkness for weeks, move through international waters where no country had clear jurisdiction, Emerge in European or North American ports with cargo manifests that looked completely legitimate. The problem, Nikolai continued, is coordination with the other syndicates. Marcel wants Mediterranean cargo rerouted north during summer when surveillance increases. Christina wants northern technology shipments integrated into her European networks. Giancarlo wants access to Russian customs contacts for Adriatic operations. Everyone wants something, Selena said. Everyone wants everything. Your job is making sure they get enough to stay happy without giving so much that someone gains advantage over the others. Impossible balancing act. Yes, which is why you're being paid extremely well to attempt it. He pulled out a bottle of vodka from a desk drawer. 9 a.m., and he was pouring drinks. Offered one to Selena. She took it. Refusing would be insulting. To survival, he said in Russian, echoing what he'd said at Velvet Dominion. They drank. The vodka burned going down, cheap and harsh despite Nikolai's wealth. Probably intentional. A test of whether she'd complain about quality. She didn't. Good, he said. Now, tell me what you know about Norwegian customs enforcement. For the next 2 hours, they discussed Arctic logistics. Selena took notes, asked questions, demonstrated understanding. Nikolai's men gradually relaxed around her, started treating her like a colleague instead of an outsider. By 11 a.m., she had a comprehensive understanding of the frozen routes and 3 new contacts in Russian ports who would coordinate timing with other syndicate shipments. Professional, competent, exactly what they needed. But underneath the performance, her mind kept circling back to Massimo's visit to Marcus. The implicit threat, the reminder that she was being watched, tested, measured for failure. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Coffee shop 2 blocks south, 30 minutes. Come alone. No signature. But she knew who it was. Special Agent Morrison. Selena looked at Nikolai. I need to make a call. Private. He gestured toward the door. Use the loading dock. Don't wander. My men get nervous about strangers exploring the facility. She stepped outside into cold Brooklyn air. The waterfront stretched gray and industrial, cargo ships moving slowly through polluted water. She dialed the FBI number Morrison had given her. He answered immediately. You got my text. I'm not coming. Why not? Because I'm standing in a Russian smuggling facility surrounded by armed criminals who would kill me if they suspected I was talking to federal agents. Because I just spent 2 hours learning about illegal Arctic shipping routes, and if I disappear for coffee right afterward, someone's going to notice. Because this is insane and I'm not ready to die yet. You signed the contract with the Alliance. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice, Selena. Right now you're choosing to become a criminal. Meeting me gives you a different option. What option? Become an informant and hope the FBI can protect me from 4 international syndicates simultaneously? Hope they can't reach Marcus in witness protection? Hope Massimo doesn't kill me before you even build a case? Morrison was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was harder. Massimo visited your brother this morning. Selena's blood went cold. How do you know that? We've been watching the DeLuca organization for 3 years. We have surveillance on their key personnel. We saw him enter Clearview Neurological at 6:15 a.m., stayed 17 minutes, left without incident. You're watching me. We're watching everyone connected to the Alliance, which now includes you. So let me be very clear about your situation. You're currently participating in a criminal conspiracy that will eventually be prosecuted. When that happens, everyone involved goes to prison. The only question is whether you go down with them or help us take them down first. I need more time. You don't have time. The Alliance is already moving forward. Shipments are being coordinated. Money is changing hands. Crimes are being committed. Every day you wait makes your involvement deeper and your legal exposure worse. Selena closed her eyes. The loading dock smelled like diesel and salt water. Somewhere inside the warehouse, Russian criminals were discussing routes for smuggling illegal weapons and technology. She was supposed to be managing those routes, making them efficient, profitable, becoming complicit. The coffee shop, she said quietly. 30 minutes. Come alone. If you're followed, abort and leave immediately. He hung up. Selena went back inside. Nikolai was reviewing shipping schedules with his men, speaking rapid Russian about cargo timing and weather windows. He looked up when she entered. Everything okay? Fine. Just checking on my brother. He's settling into the new facility. Good. Family is important. He said it seriously, without irony, like he hadn't just been discussing how to smuggle banned technology past international authorities. We're almost finished here. You'll have the Norwegian contact information by tonight. Next meeting is with Marcel, yes? Thursday, Mediterranean customs protocols. He'll try to charm you, don't trust it. Marcel is dangerous specifically because he seems civilized. Massimo is obvious threat. I am obvious threat. Christina, Giancarlo, also obvious. But Marcel makes you think he's different, educated, refined. He's not. He's just better at hiding the violence. Noted. Also, watch for inconsistencies between what syndicate leaders tell you and what their operations actually do. Everyone will lie. Your job is catching the lies before they become problems. Selena nodded, took the advice seriously because it was good advice, even coming from a criminal. She left the warehouse 20 minutes later with a folder full of Arctic shipping data and a head full of information that could probably put Nikolai and his entire organization in prison for life. The coffee shop was 2 blocks south, exactly as Morrison specified. Small place, nearly empty mid-morning. She ordered black coffee, sat in a back booth with her back to the wall so she could watch the entrance. Morrison walked in 8 minutes later. He looked exactly like his voice suggested. Mid-40s, brown hair going gray, cheap suit that screamed federal salary, tired eyes that had seen too much. He ordered coffee, sat across from her without asking permission. "You came," he said. "I'm here. Doesn't mean I'm agreeing to anything." "Fair enough." He pulled out a phone, set it on the table between them. "This is encrypted, untraceable. If you decide to work with us, you use this to communicate. Regular reports about alliance activities, shipping schedules, syndicate meetings. Nothing that would immediately expose you, just intelligence we can use to build a case. And when you have enough intelligence, we move. Coordinated raids across multiple countries. Simultaneous arrests. We take down the entire network at once, so nobody has time to run or retaliate. And I end up testifying in court against international crime lords. You end up in witness protection with your brother. New names, new location, new life, completely clean." Selena stared at the phone. It looked harmless, just a normal smartphone. But picking it up meant crossing a line that made signing the alliance contract look trivial by comparison. "How do I know you can actually protect us?" she asked. "You don't. You take it on faith that the United States government has more resources than criminal syndicates. Except criminal syndicates have people inside the government. You said yourself you've been watching the DeLuca organization for 3 years. 3 years and you haven't arrested anyone. Why? Because they're protected. Because they have contacts who warn them when investigations get serious." Morrison's expression didn't change. "You're right. They have contacts. Which is why we need someone on the inside who they don't know is working with us. Someone new. Someone they just hired who has access to coordination details across all 4 syndicates. Someone expendable if it goes wrong. Someone brave enough to do the right thing despite the risk." "Don't give me that heroic bullshit," Selena said sharply. "I'm not brave, I'm trapped. There's a difference." "Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, you made a choice last night. You could have stayed quiet, kept serving drinks, stayed invisible. But you didn't. You spoke up, demonstrated competence, forced your way into a position of power. That's not what trapped people do. That's what brave people do. That's what desperate people do." "Maybe, but desperation and bravery look pretty similar in practice." Selena picked up the phone, turned it over in her hands. It felt heavier than it should. "If I do this," she said slowly, "I need guarantees, real guarantees, not promises. Legal documentation that my brother and I get full immunity in exchange for testimony. That we get protected regardless of how long the investigation takes. That if something goes wrong, you extract us immediately instead of leaving us exposed. I can arrange that. How long before you have enough to move? Depends on what you give us. Could be 6 months. Could be 2 years. Alliance operations are complex. We need evidence that will hold up in international court, connection to specific criminal acts, financial trails that prove conspiracy. It takes time. 2 years. 2 years of coordinating illegal shipments, managing criminal networks, lying to everyone around her while feeding information to the FBI. 2 years of Massimo watching for signs of betrayal. 2 years of Nikolai testing her loyalty. 2 years of living every single day knowing that one mistake would get her killed. "I can't do this," she said. Morrison leaned forward. Yes, you can. You're already doing it. You just need to decide whether you're doing it for them or for us. There has to be another option. There isn't. You're in the game now. The only question is which side you're playing for. Selena set the phone down, stood up. I need more time to think. You have until tonight. After that, we assume you've chosen the alliance, and when we eventually take them down, you go down with them. Your brother loses his treatment. Your family stays destroyed. Is that what you want? She didn't answer. Just walked out of the coffee shop into Brooklyn daylight that felt too bright, too normal for the conversation that had just happened. Her regular phone buzzed. Marcel confirming Thursday lunch. Christina sending updated Norwegian surveillance reports. Giancarlo requesting immediate callback about Italian port security. The alliance was already moving forward, trusting her, depending on her, and she was considering betraying all of them, except they were criminals, monsters who trafficked weapons, smuggled drugs, moved human cargo. They deserved to be in prison. Helping the FBI take them down was the right thing to do, but the right thing would get her killed. Selena took the subway back to Manhattan, stopped at her apartment long enough to grab the tablet, change clothes, prepare for the rest of the day's coordinating calls. She had 3 different syndicate operations to manage, shipping schedules to finalize, customs contacts to verify. Her phone rang. Private number. She answered. Selena Marrow. A woman's voice. Crisp, professional, American accent with hint of something else underneath. My name is Victoria Ashford. I represent certain interested parties who have been monitoring your recent career advancement. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you don't. But perhaps we should meet anyway. I think you'll find our conversation enlightening. Who are you? Someone who can offer you a third option. Because right now, you're caught between the Alliance and the FBI, and both of those choices end badly for you. I'm offering a way out that doesn't involve prison, or witness protection, or living in fear for the rest of your life. Not interested. You haven't heard the offer yet. Don't need to. I'm not taking on any more complications. Selena. The woman's voice changed, became harder. I know about the encrypted phone Morrison gave you. I know about Massimo visiting your brother. I know about the Norwegian routes Nikolai showed you this morning. I know everything, which means you should probably hear what I have to say before making assumptions about complications. The line went dead. Selena stared at her phone. Her hands were shaking again. Someone else was watching, not the FBI, not the Alliance, someone else entirely. A third party who knew details they shouldn't know, who had surveillance on FBI operations and Alliance activities simultaneously, who was confident enough to call and issue implicit threats while offering mysterious alternatives. Intelligence agency. Had to be. CIA, maybe, or NSA, or some organization that didn't have public acronyms, which meant she wasn't caught between 2 sides. She was caught between 3. Her apartment door opened. Selena spun around, heart hammering. Massimo stood in her doorway. He'd picked her lock, walked into her home, invaded the last private space she had left. He closed the door behind him with careful precision, locked it, and smiled. Surprised? He asked. Selena's brain screamed at her to run, to fight, to do something, but there was nowhere to run. He was between her and the only exit, and fighting would be suicide. How did you find my address? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Please. I own Velvet Dominion. You've worked for me for 4 years. You think I don't have complete background information on every employee? I know where you live, where your brother lives, where your mother lives in Oregon under her remarried name. I know everything about you. He walked further into the apartment, looking around with barely concealed contempt. This is where you've been living, this shithole, while serving the most powerful people in New York? It was all I could afford. Was. Past tense, you can afford better now, much better, unless you're planning to betray the Alliance and lose everything. There it was, the reason for the visit. I'm not planning to betray anyone, Selena said. No, then explain why you met with an FBI agent this morning. Her heart stopped, completely stopped. Massimo pulled out his phone, showed her a photograph. Security camera footage from outside the Brooklyn coffee shop. Timestamp from 2 hours ago. Clear image of her walking in, Morrison following minutes later. We have people everywhere, Massimo said quietly. Banks, government offices, law enforcement. We saw the FBI watching my visit to your brother, so we started watching the FBI. And we saw them approach you. Saw you take their phone, saw you have a very interesting conversation. Selina's mind raced. Denying it was pointless. The evidence was right there, but admitting it meant death. He approached me, she said carefully. I didn't contact him. He called, said he knew about my position with the Alliance, threatened to arrest me unless I cooperated. And what did you tell him? That I needed time to think. Wrong answer. Massimo stepped closer. The correct answer is I told him to fuck off and hung up immediately. But you didn't do that. You met with him, listened to his offer, took his phone, which means you're considering betrayal. I'm not. Don't lie to me. His voice dropped to a whisper. I've been doing this for 25 years. I know what FBI recruitment looks like. I know how they operate. They find someone vulnerable, someone desperate, someone who thinks they have no choice. They offer protection, promise immunity, make it sound like working with them is the only way to survive. He grabbed her shoulder, not violently, but firm enough to prevent her from pulling away. But here's what they don't tell you. The FBI can't protect you from us. They can put you in witness protection, sure. New name, new location, new life. But we'll find you. Always do. Because we have resources that match theirs, patience that exceeds theirs, and motivation they can't understand. They're doing a job. We're protecting empires. There's no comparison. Selina met his eyes. Then why haven't you killed me already? Because you're useful. The Alliance needs you, genuinely needs you. Marcel already trusts you more than he trusts me. Nikolai respects your intelligence. Christina thinks you're competent. Giancarlo is cautiously optimistic. If I kill you now, I lose the Alliance. They'll blame me for eliminating the one person holding it together. So I'm protected by my own usefulness. For now. But protection based on usefulness is fragile. The moment you stop being useful, or the moment you become more dangerous than useful, you die. So let me make your choice very clear. He released her shoulder, walked to her window, looked out at Manhattan, sprawling, dirty, and infinite. You work for the Alliance, coordinate operations, make us profitable. Do your job well, and your brother gets treatment, your debts stay erased, and you live comfortable life managing international logistics for people who will never betray you as long as you never betray them. He turned back to face her. Or you work for the FBI. Feed them intelligence, help them build a case, and when they finally move, you watch your brother die before they extract you to witness protection, where you'll spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, knowing we're hunting you, knowing we'll eventually find you. Those aren't choices, Selina said. That's coercion. Welcome to reality. Nobody gets clean choices. You chose intelligence over invisibility when you corrected that translation. You chose criminal world over legitimate world when you signed the contract. Now you're choosing survival strategy, Alliance or FBI, live comfortable or die running. Simple decision. He walked back to the door, unlocked it, paused with his hand on the knob. The other syndicate leaders don't know about your FBI contact yet. I'm keeping it quiet because explaining that I hired someone under federal investigation would make me look incompetent. So you have one chance to prove this was innocent mistake. One chance to demonstrate loyalty. How? Destroy Morrison's phone. Cut all contact with the FBI. And tomorrow, give me actionable intelligence about one of the other syndicates. Something valuable. Proof that you're committed to the Alliance, not to bringing it down. You want me to spy on Marcel or Nikolai? I want you to prove you're on our side. Details don't matter. Just show me something that demonstrates you understand who you work for now. He opened the door, started to leave, then stopped. And Selina, if you contact the FBI again, I won't kill you. I'll kill your brother, slowly, while you watch. Then I'll kill everyone you've ever cared about. Then, when you're completely alone and destroyed, I'll kill you too. Do we understand each other? Yes. Good. I'll expect your intelligence report by tomorrow evening. He left. The door closed. The lock clicked. Selina stood frozen in her apartment, her brain trying to process everything that had just happened. Massimo knew about Morrison, knew about the meeting, had surveillance photos, was giving her one chance to prove loyalty by betraying one of the other syndicate leaders. She pulled out Morrison's encrypted phone, stared at it. Then her regular phone rang. Victoria Ashford, the mysterious third party. Selina answered. I assume Massimo just left? Victoria said calmly. How do you know that? Because I've been watching him watch you watch the FBI, watch the Alliance. It's quite the surveillance chain. Are you ready to hear my offer now? Who are you? I told you, interested party. CIA. Victoria laughed. Close, but not quite. We're adjacent to official intelligence agencies. Work with them sometimes. Work against them other times. Work independently most often. We represent clients who have interest in destabilizing certain criminal networks while preserving others. You want me to help you manipulate the Alliance? We want you to help yourself. Because right now, you're trapped between Massimo, who will kill you if you betray him, and Morrison, who will imprison you if you don't. We're offering third option. Work with us. Feed us specific intelligence about specific operations. And in exchange, we make both problems disappear. How? We have resources that exceed both the FBI and the Alliance. We can protect your brother in ways witness protection never could. We can erase your involvement in Alliance crimes. We can make Massimo's surveillance photos disappear. We can give you actual immunity, actual safety, actual control over your situation. And what do you want in return? Information about certain Alliance shipments. Specific cargo we have interest in acquiring or interdicting. Nothing that would expose you to the Alliance, nothing that would put you in obvious danger, just selective intelligence sharing. Selina sat down on her couch. Her head was spinning. 3 different organizations, 3 different agendas, all demanding loyalty, all threatening consequences. I don't believe you can protect me from both the Alliance and the FBI, she said. You don't have to believe. You just have to survive the next 48 hours. Do that, and we'll prove our capabilities. Fail, and you'll be dead anyway, so belief becomes irrelevant. You're asking me to trust you without proof. I'm asking you to recognize that you're already completely fucked unless someone with actual power intervenes. We're that intervention. The question is whether you're smart enough to accept it. The line went dead. Again. Selina sat in silence. Outside her window, Manhattan continued existing. People went to work, ate lunch, lived normal lives. And she sat in her shithole apartment holding 2 different phones that represented 2 different betrayals, having just been threatened by a mafia boss and recruited by a mysterious intelligence operative, trying to figure out which lie was least likely to get her killed. Her regular phone buzzed. Text from Christina. Emergency. Norwegian Customs seized one of our shipments. Need you in Oslo tomorrow. First-class ticket being arranged now. Another text from Marcel. Mediterranean situation escalating. Italian Navy increased patrol frequency. We need to discuss complete route restructuring. Another from Giancarlo. Heard about Norway? This is bad. Alliance falling apart before it even starts. Fix it. The operations were collapsing. The alliance she'd been hired to coordinate was already showing cracks, and she'd been in the job less than 24 hours. And she still had to give Massimo intelligence about one of the other syndicates by tomorrow evening. And Morrison expected her to check in with updates about alliance activities. And Victoria Ashford expected her to make a decision about whose side she was really on. Selina looked at Morrison's encrypted phone, then at her regular phone full of messages from criminals, then at her reflection in the black screen of her laptop. She didn't look like someone who could handle this, didn't feel like it either, but she was out of options, out of time, out of roads that led anywhere except toward disaster. So she did the only thing she could do. She made a choice. Selina picked up Morrison's encrypted phone, walked to her kitchen sink, and smashed it against the counter. Once, twice, 3 times. Until the screen shattered, the casing cracked, and the internal components scattered across cheap linoleum. Then she gathered the pieces, walked to her building's trash chute, and dropped them down into the compactor 4 floors below where they'd be crushed with the rest of Manhattan's garbage. Burned that bridge. No going back. She returned to her apartment, pulled out her tablet, started reviewing the intelligence Nikolai had given her about Arctic routes. Found something interesting. A shipping schedule that showed one of Marcel's Mediterranean vessels making an unscheduled stop at a Russian port, picking up cargo that wasn't on any official manifest. Cargo that Nikolai had specifically told her was going to different destination entirely. Marcel and Nikolai were running a side operation, hiding it from the rest of the Alliance, using Alliance infrastructure for personal profit, perfect intelligence to give Massimo, Proof of loyalty to the Alliance by exposing betrayal within the Alliance. Selena typed up the report, kept it concise, professional, sent it to Massimo's encrypted channel with the subject line, Trust Issues. His response came back in under a minute. Good. This is exactly what I needed. Welcome to the business, Director Marrow. Let's see if you survive it. She set the phone down, closed her eyes, breathed. She'd just betrayed Marcel and Nikolai to prove loyalty to Massimo, had destroyed her FBI contact to avoid immediate execution, had ignored Victoria Ashford's mysterious offer because adding a fourth faction to this nightmare seemed like suicide. She'd chosen the Alliance, chosen to be complicit, chosen to become exactly what she'd sworn she'd never be. And somewhere in Connecticut, her brother was getting treatment that would save his life, paid for with blood money from criminal operations she was now actively coordinating. There was no moral high ground left, no clean choices, no way to be the good person anymore, just survival, day by day, lie by lie, betrayal by betrayal. Selena opened her eyes, looked at her reflection in the dark window. The invisible waitress was gone. The person staring back was someone else entirely, someone she didn't recognize yet, someone she wasn't sure she wanted to become, but someone who might actually survive this. Her phone rang one more time. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but instinct made her pick up. Congratulations, Victoria Ashford said quietly. You just passed the first test. What test? Proving you're smart enough to lie to everyone, FBI, Alliance, even yourself. That's the only way to survive what's coming, because they all think they own you now, but the truth is much simpler. What truth? You don't belong to any of them. You belong to whoever's smart enough to understand that loyalty is just another transaction, and transactions can always be renegotiated. Sleep well, Director Marrow. Tomorrow, your real education begins. The line went dead, and Selena sat alone in the dark, holding a phone full of encrypted messages from international criminals, having just destroyed her only connection to law enforcement, having just betrayed 2 syndicate leaders to prove loyalty to a third, being told by a mysterious intelligence operative that none of it mattered because the whole thing was just a game she didn't even know she was playing yet. She'd thought correcting the translation was the point of no return. She'd thought meeting Morrison was the point of no return. She'd been wrong both times. This was it. The moment where everything she used to be died completely, and something new was born. Something dangerous, something that might actually survive in a world built on lies, violence, and blood. Selena stood up, walked to her closet, started packing for Oslo. Because Norwegian Customs had seized an Alliance shipment, and she was expected to fix it, expected to prove her value again, expected to keep all 4 syndicates happy while lying to all of them simultaneously, expected to coordinate criminal operations across 3 continents while being watched by at least 3 different intelligence organizations. Expected to be perfect, flawless, indispensable, or die trying. She finished packing, set her alarm for 4 a.m. to catch the Oslo flight, lay down in bed, still dressed, staring at the ceiling, knowing sleep wouldn't come but trying anyway. Her phone buzzed one last time, message from Marcus. Feeling better? Treatment is amazing. Thank you for everything. I love you. Selena closed her eyes. This was why. This was the reason. Her brother's life, his future, his chance at normalcy, worth any price, any compromise, any transformation, even if the price was her soul, even if the compromise was her integrity, even if the transformation meant becoming the monster she'd always feared. Outside her window, Manhattan glittered with 10 million lights, 10 million people living 10 million different lives. And somewhere among them, 3 different organizations were watching her, waiting to see which version of Selena Marrow would emerge from this crucible. The loyal Alliance coordinator, the FBI informant, the intelligence asset, or something else entirely, something none of them expected, something even she didn't fully understand yet. But whatever it was being born right now, in this moment, in this choice. And there was absolutely no turning back. The Oslo flight left at 6 a.m. Selena didn't sleep. Couldn't. Her brain kept replaying the last 48 hours on endless loop. The translation, the negotiation, Morrison's offer, Massimo's threat. Victoria Ashford's voice promising salvation or damnation, she still couldn't tell which. By the time the plane touched down at Oslo airport, she'd been awake for 36 hours straight. Her eyes burned. Her head throbbed. Her hands shook from too much coffee and too much adrenaline. But she looked composed, professional, like someone who coordinated international criminal operations instead of someone barely holding together. Christina's people met her at customs. Two men in expensive coats, Scandinavian features, cold eyes that marked them as security rather than drivers. They didn't speak, just gestured toward a black Mercedes waiting outside. The drive took 40 minutes through Oslo streets, still dark with winter morning. They headed away from the city center toward industrial districts near the harbor, where legitimate shipping companies operated side by side with operations that were anything but. The Mercedes stopped at a warehouse complex. Modern, clean, the kind of facility that passed inspections because everything visible was legal, everything hidden wasn't. Christina waited inside a climate-controlled office that overlooked the shipping docks. She wore charcoal business attire, her blonde hair pulled back severe and tight. No jewelry, no makeup, nothing soft anywhere. "Director Marrow," she said in German-accented English. "Thank you for coming so quickly." Selina set down her bag. "What happened?" "Norwegian Customs seized one of our shipments. Container full of high-value electronics we were moving from China to Amsterdam. Legitimate cargo on paper. But Customs opened it anyway, found discrepancies in the manifests, and impounded everything pending investigation." "Why did they open it?" "That's what we need to determine. Customs doesn't randomly inspect containers from established shipping companies with clean records. Someone tipped them off. Someone who knew exactly which container to flag and exactly what they'd find inside." Selina felt ice spread through her stomach. Internal leak? Or external surveillance? Either way, it's a problem. That shipment was worth 40 million euros, but the real damage is exposure. If Norwegian authorities start investigating the shipping company, they'll find connections to other operations, German routes, Dutch ports, Swedish logistics. The entire Northern European network could collapse. "What do you need from me?" Christina pulled up shipping manifests on a computer screen. "Find out who leaked the information. Was it someone in Marcel's organization trying to sabotage my routes? Someone in Massimo's network protecting his territory? Internal betrayal from my own people? Or external surveillance from law enforcement?" 4 different possibilities. 4 different responses required. Get it wrong, and the alliance would tear itself apart with accusations and paranoia. Get it right, and Selina would prove her value again. Prove she was worth protecting, worth keeping alive. She studied the manifests. Container number, shipping dates, port transfers, customs documentation. Everything looked legitimate on the surface, but there were patterns underneath if you knew what to look for. "The container was flagged in Rotterdam," Selina said, tracing the route. "Before it reached Oslo. That's Marcel's territory. His customs contacts should have cleared it without inspection." "They should have, but they didn't." Which means either Marcel's contacts failed or Marcel deliberately let it get flagged. Christina's expression didn't change. Why would Marcel sabotage alliance operations? To test the alliance structure, see if other syndicates can handle disruption, or to make you look incompetent so he can argue for restructuring with him in control. That would be an extremely dangerous move. So is coordinating an international criminal alliance. Everyone's testing boundaries right now, seeing what they can get away with. Christina nodded slowly. "You may be right. What do you suggest?" Selina thought fast. She'd already betrayed Marcel to Massimo by revealing the secret Russian shipment. If she accused him again here, she'd be painting a target on his back. But if she defended him, Christina would suspect her motives. The truth was, she had no idea who'd leaked the information. Could have been Marcel. Could have been anyone. Could have been law enforcement surveillance that had nothing to do with alliance politics. But in a room like this, admitting ignorance meant admitting uselessness. "I need to see the actual container," Selina said. "The impounded cargo, customs documentation. Interview the shipping company employees who handled it. Can you arrange that?" "The container is in a secured customs warehouse. Accessing it would require official clearance we don't have. Or unofficial access from people who don't care about clearance." Christina smiled slightly. "You're suggesting we break into a Norwegian customs facility." "I'm suggesting we examine evidence before making accusations that could destroy the alliance." "Very diplomatic. Yes, I can arrange access. Tonight, when the facility has minimal security presence. But Selina, understand the risk. If we're caught breaking into a government warehouse, this becomes international incident, criminal charges, exposure of alliance operations, everything we've built destroyed. I understand. Do you? Because 24 hours ago you were serving drinks. Now you're proposing we commit federal crimes in a foreign country. That's quite the escalation. Selena met her eyes. You hired me to coordinate operations and solve problems. The seized shipment is a problem. I'm solving it. If you want someone who only does safe, legal work, hire someone else. Christina studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Tonight, 11 p.m. Wear dark clothing and bring nothing that identifies you. If we're caught, I've never met you and you're acting independently. Understood? Understood. Christina's phone rang. She answered in rapid German, her expression hardening as she listened. After 30 seconds, she hung up. That was Marcel, she said quietly. He wants to speak with you, immediately. Private conversation. Selena's pulse accelerated. About what? He didn't say, but he's very insistent, almost concerned, which is unusual for Marcel. He doesn't do concern. She handed Selena a phone. Encrypted channel already open. Selena took it carefully. Hello? Selena, Marcel's voice in French, smooth and controlled. I understand you're in Oslo investigating the customs seizure. News travels fast. News travels at exactly the speed I make it travel. I have a question for you. Very important question. Has anyone asked you about a Russian shipment? Specifically, cargo moving through Murmansk that wasn't on official alliance schedules. Selena's blood turned to ice water. He knew. Somehow he knew she'd given that intelligence to Massimo. Why do you ask? She said carefully, keeping her voice neutral. Because someone leaked information about that shipment to Italian authorities. Giancarlo's customs contacts are now being investigated, and the timing is very suspicious. The leak happened the same day you sent your first intelligence report to Massimo. Fuck. Massimo had used her intelligence immediately, hadn't kept it quiet, hadn't been subtle, had weaponized it against Giancarlo, and now Marcel had traced it back to her. I don't know anything about that, Selena said. Don't lie to me. Lying is inefficient, and I hate inefficiency. You discovered the Russian shipment while reviewing Nikolai's Arctic routes. You gave that information to Massimo as proof of loyalty, and Massimo used it to damage Giancarlo's operations. Yes or no? No point denying it. Marcel clearly had sources inside Massimo's organization, or inside Giancarlo's, or both. Yes, Selena said quietly. Silence on the line, long enough that she thought he might have hung up. Then, do you understand what you've done? I was proving I work for the Alliance, not against it. You were proving you work for Massimo. There's a difference. The Alliance requires coordination between equals. What you did was choose sides. You became Massimo's asset instead of neutral coordinator. He threatened my brother. He had surveillance photos of me meeting with FBI. He gave me one chance to prove loyalty or die. What was I supposed to do? Another pause. When Marcel spoke again, his voice was softer, almost sympathetic. You were supposed to come to me, or Christina, or Nikolai. Tell us about Massimo's threats. Let us handle him collectively. Instead, you made unilateral decision that damaged Alliance trust structure. Now Giancarlo thinks you're working for Massimo. Nikolai thinks you're incompetent for getting caught by FBI. Christina is questioning whether hiring you was a mistake, and Massimo thinks he owns you. Does he? That's what I'm trying to determine, so I'm going to ask you directly. Whose side are you on? Truth this time. Selena closed her eyes. Truth. What even was truth anymore? She'd destroyed Morrison's phone, betrayed Marcel and Nikolai, been recruited by Victoria Ashford, threatened by Massimo. She'd told so many lies in the past 48 hours she wasn't sure she remembered what truth felt like. I'm on my brother's side, she said finally. Everything else is just survival strategy. Marcel laughed, sharp, humorless. Finally, an honest answer. Good. That's what I needed to hear. Why? Because people motivated by love are predictable. People motivated by ideology or greed or power are dangerous. But people protecting family? They're ruthless in useful ways. They'll do anything, betray anyone, sacrifice everything. As long as their family stays safe, they'll be loyal to whoever keeps that family protected. And that makes me trustworthy? It makes you controllable. Different thing, but equally valuable. Now listen carefully. The Norwegian customs seizure? That was me. Selena's eyes snapped open. What? I arranged it. Tipped off Norwegian authorities about the container. Let them impound it. Created this entire crisis. Why? To test you. See how you handle pressure. Whether you panic, whether you blame the right people, whether you're smart enough to investigate before making accusations. So far you're passing. Christina tells me you want to examine the evidence personally instead of making assumptions. That's good. That's what I hoped you'd do. You risked a 40 million euro shipment to test me? The shipment is insured and the cargo isn't actually valuable, just legitimate electronics being moved through normal channels. The real shipment, the illegal one worth actual money, went through different route entirely. The seized container was bait, to see who would panic, who would make mistakes, who would stay calm and professional. Jesus Christ. I told you at Velvet Dominion that you'd remind me of myself. I meant it. You're smart, adaptable, willing to do terrible things when necessary. Those are rare qualities, but they're also dangerous qualities if you're working for wrong people. So I needed to see who you'd become under pressure, whether you'd be Massimo's puppet or something else. And what's the verdict? Still undecided. You betrayed me to Massimo, which shows pragmatism but lacks loyalty. You're meeting with Christina to investigate the seizure, which shows intelligence but might be performance. The question is whether you're playing all of us or trying to survive all of us. There's a difference. Selena didn't respond. Couldn't. Her brain was trying to process the fact that this entire crisis was manufactured, that Marcel had deliberately created chaos to test her response, that she was still being evaluated, still being measured, still one mistake away from execution. Tonight, when you break into the customs warehouse with Christina, Marcel continued, you'll find documents in the container, shipping manifests that show connections between all 4 syndicates and various illegal operations, evidence that could destroy the entire alliance if it reached authorities. Why would that be in the container? Because I put it there, more testing, to see what you do with dangerous information. Do you give it to Massimo, to Christina, keep it for yourself as leverage, or destroy it to protect the alliance? This is insane. This is business. Everyone in the alliance is testing everyone else constantly, looking for weakness, betrayal, incompetence. You're being tested more because you're new. Unknown quantity. We need to understand you before we trust you. And if I fail your tests, then you become liability, and liabilities get eliminated. But Selena, I don't think you'll fail. I think you're exactly as dangerous as I hoped you'd be. The question is whether you understand how to use that danger productively. The line went dead. Selena stood holding the phone, her hands shaking again. Everything was a test. Every crisis, every decision, every conversation. The seizure was fake. The evidence was planted. Marcel was orchestrating chaos specifically to evaluate her response. And somewhere Massimo was doing the same thing. And Nikolai. And Christina. And probably Victoria Ashford with her mysterious intelligence operation. Everyone manipulating everyone. Everyone watching everyone. No move that wasn't calculated. No truth that wasn't tactical. She handed the phone back to Christina. What did he say? Christina asked. That the seizure might be more complicated than it appears. Did he admit to causing it? Selena hesitated. If she told Christina that Marcel had orchestrated the seizure, it would damage Alliance trust even further. But if she lied and Christina already knew, then Selena would be exposed as willing to hide information. Another test. Probably. Yes, Selena said. He admitted it, said it was test of Alliance response capabilities. Christina's expression didn't change. And you believe him? I don't know what I believe anymore. But I know we still need to examine that container tonight. Whether it's real evidence or planted evidence, we need to see what's there. Agreed. Christina stood. Get some rest. You look exhausted. We'll meet at the warehouse at 11. Selena left the office. Christina's security team drove her to a hotel in downtown Oslo. Luxury suite, already paid for, no questions asked. She collapsed on the bed, still wearing her clothes from yesterday. Her body finally demanding sleep her brain had been denying. She slept for 6 hours. Dreamless. Deep. The kind of sleep that came from complete exhaustion. When she woke, it was dark outside. 5 p.m. 6 hours until the warehouse break-in. Her phone had 17 messages. She scrolled through them mechanically. Giancarlo. Heard about Norway. Need update immediately. Nikolai. Marcel is playing games. Don't trust anything he says. Massimo. Your intelligence about Russian shipment was excellent. Keep proving yourself useful. And one message from a number that made her stomach clench. Victoria Ashford. Enjoy in Oslo. The customs seizure is more interesting than you think. Call me when you're ready to know why. Selena stared at that last message. Victoria somehow knew about the seizure, knew she was in Oslo, knew there was more to the situation than appeared. She called the number. Victoria answered immediately. Finally, I was beginning to think you'd ignore me forever. What do you want? To give you information that will save your life. The customs warehouse you're planning to break into tonight? It's a trap. What kind of trap? The kind where Christina tests whether you're trustworthy by seeing if you'll steal Alliance evidence or destroy it. The kind where law enforcement has been tipped off about the break-in and will arrive approximately 15 minutes after you enter. The kind where you get arrested in foreign country with no diplomatic protection and spend the next decade in Norwegian prison while your brother loses his medical treatment. How do you know all this? Because we arranged it. My organization, in coordination with Christina and Marcel. They're testing you. We're evaluating whether you're worth recruiting. 2 different agendas, same trap. You're working with the Alliance? We're working with whoever serves our interests. Right now, the Alliance serves our interests. But you could serve them better? If you're smart enough to understand the game you're playing. I'm tired of games. Then you're in wrong business. Everything is games. The Alliance is testing whether you'll betray them. The FBI wants you to betray them. We want you to pretend to betray them while actually working for us. And you're trying to survive all of it while protecting your brother. That's 4 different games simultaneously. The question is which one you play best. Selena walked to the hotel window. Oslo stretched cold and dark below, winter lights reflecting off harbor water. What happens if I don't break into the warehouse tonight? She asked. Christina decides you're not committed enough to be useful. Alliance loses confidence in you. Massimo takes that as opportunity to eliminate you and blame the failure on your incompetence. Your brother loses treatment within 48 hours. You die within 72. And if I do break in, you get arrested when Norwegian police arrive, unless you're very, very careful about timing and extraction, which is where we come in. You'll help me escape? We'll make sure the police arrive late enough for you to find the evidence, photograph it, and leave. In exchange, you give us copies of everything you find. We use it for our purposes. You use it for yours. Everyone benefits. Except the Alliance. The Alliance benefits too. They get to keep their useful coordinator. They just don't know we're also using her. Win-win. Until they find out. They won't. We're very good at staying invisible. Unlike the FBI, who got you photographed meeting their agent within 12 hours. Unlike Massimo, who threatens people loudly enough that everyone hears. We're quiet, professional, undetectable. Who are you really? Victoria laughed. Does it matter? We're offering you survival. That's all you need to know. It matters to me. Fine. We represent private interests that benefit from controlled chaos in criminal markets. We don't want the Alliance destroyed completely. That would create power vacuum, violence, instability. Bad for business. But we also don't want them too powerful, too organized. That reduces competition, increases their leverage. So we maintain balance. Help them when they're weak. Undermine them when they're strong. Keep the ecosystem stable. You're arms dealers, or intelligence contractors, or both. Close enough. Point is, we have resources and expertise the Alliance doesn't, and we're offering them to you. Help us maintain balance, and we'll make sure you stay alive long enough to benefit from it. Selena closed her eyes. Another faction, another agenda, another set of lies wrapped around different lies. What do you need me to do tonight? She asked. Exactly what Christina asked. Break into the warehouse, examine the evidence, but also photograph everything with this. A message appeared on Selena's phone. Download link for encrypted camera app. Take pictures of every document in that container. Upload them to our servers. Then do whatever Christina expects. Destroy evidence, steal it, analyze it, whatever. We don't care what you tell the Alliance. We just need copies of everything. And if I refuse, then you're on your own against 4 international crime syndicates, federal law enforcement, and Norwegian authorities. Good luck with that. The line went dead. Selena downloaded the camera app. It installed silently, no icon visible on her phone screen. Encrypted. Invisible. Exactly like Victoria had promised. She had 5 hours before the warehouse break-in. 5 hours to decide whether to trust Victoria's warning about police timing. 5 hours to figure out how to photograph evidence without Christina noticing. 5 hours to prepare for a scenario where everything went wrong and she ended up in Norwegian prison anyway. She ordered room service. Forced herself to eat even though her stomach was twisted into knots. Needed energy. Needed focus. Needed to be sharp for whatever happened next. At 10 p.m., she changed into dark clothes. Black pants, black jacket, black gloves. Checked her phone one last time. Message from Marcus. Treatment going amazing. Doctor says I'm responding better than expected. Thank you for everything. She stared at those words. Let them anchor her. This was why. This was the whole reason. Her brother alive, healthy, getting better, worth any price, any compromise, any game she had to play. At 10:30, Christina's security team picked her up. Same Mercedes, same silent drivers. They headed toward the industrial district, away from downtown lights, into warehouse zones where legitimate business ended and gray areas began. The customs facility was surrounded by chain-link fence topped with razor wire. Security cameras at every corner. Guard station at the entrance. Exactly the kind of place you didn't break into unless you had professional help. Christina waited in a separate vehicle 2 blocks away. She handed Selena a small toolkit. Cameras are on a loop. Guards change shift at 11:15. We have 20-minute window. Get in, photograph the manifest documents in container C4477. Get out. Don't touch anything else. Don't leave traces. Understood? Understood. If you're caught, I've never met you. This was your independent decision. You wanted to prove yourself to the Alliance by retrieving evidence alone. I know. And Selena, whatever you find in that container, remember who you work for now. The Alliance needs trust more than truth. Choose carefully what you reveal and what you protect. Another test, another evaluation, another moment where the wrong choice meant execution. Selena took the toolkit, walked toward the fence, found the section Christina's people had pre-cut, disguised to look intact. Slipped through. The facility was massive. Hundreds of shipping containers stacked in organized rows, each labeled with codes and identification numbers. Overhead lights cast harsh shadows. Her footsteps echoed on concrete. Container C4477 was near the back. 40-foot steel box sealed with customs locks that looked official but probably weren't. She pulled out the lockpicks from the toolkit, her hands remembering training from Colombia that she'd never expected to use for criminal enterprise. The lock clicked open after 90 seconds. She pulled the container door open, stepped inside. The cargo was exactly what the manifest claimed. Electronics, computer components, legitimate freight from China to Amsterdam, boxes stacked neat and organized. But underneath the top layer, she found what Marcel had promised. Documents, folders, USB drives, all carefully hidden beneath legitimate cargo. She opened the first folder, shipping schedules connecting Massimo's operations to human trafficking routes through Eastern Europe. Financial transfers between Marcel's syndicate and terrorist organizations in North Africa. Communications between Christina's network and corrupt government officials across Scandinavia. Evidence of Giancarlo's involvement in weapons smuggling to conflict zones. Everything that could destroy the Alliance, all in one place. Marcel had been telling the truth. This was a test. What she did with this information would determine whether she lived or died. Selena pulled out her phone, activated the camera app Victoria had given her, started photographing everything, every document, every page, every USB drive label. The app worked silently, uploading images to encrypted servers as she worked. She had 10 minutes before Christina expected her back. Her hands moved fast. Click. Upload. Next document. Click. Upload. Next folder. The evidence was comprehensive, devastating, years of criminal operations laid out in meticulous detail, and she was copying all of it, giving it to Victoria's organization, betraying the Alliance even while pretending to serve them. She finished photographing with 3 minutes to spare, put everything back exactly as she'd found it, closed the folders, sealed the container. Then she heard voices, outside. Multiple people, speaking Norwegian, official tones, police. They weren't supposed to arrive for another 15 minutes. Victoria had promised late timing, but they were here now, surrounding the facility, cutting off exits. Selena's heart hammered. She was trapped inside a customs warehouse with evidence of international criminal conspiracy, no legitimate reason to be here, and law enforcement closing in. She pulled out her phone, messaged Christina. Police arrived early. Need extraction now. No response. She tried again. Nothing. Christina had abandoned her, left her to get arrested. Another test, or genuine betrayal, didn't matter. The result was the same. She was alone. The voices got closer. Flashlights swept across the container yard. They were conducting systematic search, row by row, checking every possible hiding place. Selena looked around frantically. The container offered no escape. Steel walls, single door, no windows, no vents large enough to crawl through. She was trapped. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. North fence, section D, cut your way through and run. Victoria's voice, calm, professional. Black van waiting 2 blocks east, 30 seconds, move now. Selena ran, sprinted through container rows toward the north fence, her footsteps echoing loud enough to alert every police officer in the facility. Didn't matter. Stealth was dead. Speed was everything now. Flashlight beams swung toward her, shouts in Norwegian, orders to stop. She didn't stop. The fence appeared ahead. She found Section D, saw fresh cuts in the chain link disguised but accessible. Threw herself through, the metal tearing her jacket, scraping her hands. Police behind her, close, 20 feet, 15. She hit the street running, 2 blocks east. Black van exactly where Victoria promised. The door flew open. Hands grabbed her, pulled her inside. The van accelerated before the door even closed. She lay on the floor gasping, her heart trying to explode through her ribs, her hands bleeding from the fence, her brain trying to process what had just happened. Victoria sat calmly in the back seat. Told you we were good at extraction. You said police would arrive late. I lied. They arrived exactly when I scheduled them, 15 minutes earlier than I told you, to see if you could handle unexpected complications. Another fucking test. Everything is test. You're learning. Did you get the photographs? Selena checked her phone. The app had uploaded everything. Complete archive of Alliance evidence now sitting on Victoria's encrypted servers. Yes. Excellent. Then tonight was productive. You proved you can handle pressure, improvise under fire, and follow instructions even when you don't trust the person giving them. That's valuable. Christina abandoned me. Christina did exactly what I told her to do. Leave you trapped. See how you escaped. Another evaluation of your capabilities. She's watching the police response right now, analyzing how quickly they found you, how you got away, making notes about whether you're worth continued investment. Selena sat up slowly. Her hands hurt. Her jacket was ruined. Her entire body felt like it had been through industrial machinery. I'm tired of being tested, she said. Then prove you don't need testing anymore. Prove you're valuable enough that we stop evaluating and start trusting. That's how you survive this. Become indispensable. The van drove through Oslo streets, away from the industrial district, toward some destination Selena didn't know and probably didn't want to. Where are we going? She asked. Safe house. You can't go back to the hotel. Police will check security footage, identify you eventually. Christina will report that you went rogue, tried independent operation that failed. Alliance will be very disappointed, which gives us opportunity. What opportunity? To offer you protection they can't provide. To demonstrate that working with us keeps you safer than working with them. To make the choice very clear about whose side you should be on. Selena closed her eyes. She was covered in blood and dirt, running from Norwegian police, sitting in a van with intelligence operatives who'd just manipulated her through an elaborately orchestrated trap, having betrayed the Alliance by photographing their evidence while pretending to serve them. 2 days ago, she'd been a waitress. Now she was a criminal coordinator, failed FBI informant, intelligence asset, and international fugitive. The transformation was complete, and somewhere in Connecticut, her brother was getting better, responding to treatment, living the life she'd sacrificed everything to give him. Worth it. Had to be worth it. Her phone buzzed. Message from Massimo. Heard about Oslo. Christina says you failed. Marcel says you succeeded. Nikolai is undecided. Giancarlo wants you dead. We're meeting tomorrow in Manhattan. All 4 syndicates. You'll explain what happened. If your explanation is satisfactory, you live. If not, you don't. Flight leaves Oslo in 3 hours. Be on it. The message was clear. The alliance was fracturing, trust collapsing, everyone suspicious of everyone else, and she was at the center of it. Tomorrow would be the final evaluation. The moment where all 4 syndicate leaders decided simultaneously whether she was asset or liability, whether she lived or died. Selena looked at Victoria. I need to be on a flight to New York in 3 hours. We know, we've already arranged it. Private jet, untraceable. You'll arrive in Manhattan by morning, in time for the meeting. And what happens at the meeting? Victoria smiled. That depends entirely on what you tell them, and whether you're smart enough to understand that the truth will get you killed, but the right lie might save you. The van stopped. They'd arrived at the safe house, industrial building converted to luxury apartment, anonymous, secure, the kind of place intelligence agencies used for assets who needed to disappear temporarily. Get cleaned up, Victoria said. Change clothes. Eat something. You have 2 hours before the flight. Use them to prepare your story, because tomorrow you'll be in a room with 4 international crime lords who each want different things from you. Satisfy all of them simultaneously, and you survive. Fail to satisfy any of them, and they'll kill you before dessert. Selena stepped out of the van. Her legs shook from adrenaline crash. The safe house looked warm inside, inviting, deceptive, just like everything else in this world she'd fallen into. She walked inside. The door locked behind her, electronic, controlled from outside. She was secure, protected, or imprisoned. Hard to tell the difference anymore. Her phone buzzed one final time. Message from an unknown number. Not Victoria, not Massimo, not Marcel, or Christina, or Nikolai, or any of the usual suspects. Just a simple message. You've done well so far, but tomorrow is when the real game begins. The alliance is collapsing. The syndicates are turning on each other, and you're the catalyst they'll all blame. Come to the meeting ready to burn everything down, because that's the only way you walk out alive. Burn it all, every bridge, every relationship, every lie. Leave nothing but ashes. Then rise from them as something they can't control anymore. See you tomorrow. A friend. Selena stared at the message until the screen went dark. Tomorrow. Manhattan. 4 crime lords. Final evaluation. And a choice that would determine whether she became their puppet or their nightmare. She walked to the bathroom, looked at herself in the mirror. Blood on her hands, dirt on her face, eyes that looked older than they had 72 hours ago. The invisible waitress was completely gone now. The person staring back was someone new, someone dangerous, someone capable of surviving in a world built on violence and betrayal, someone who'd photographed alliance evidence while pretending to serve them, someone who'd escaped police traps and intelligence manipulations, someone who'd made herself valuable enough that even monsters hesitated before killing her. Tomorrow she'd find out if valuable was the same as untouchable. Tomorrow she'd discover whether survival required playing their game or destroying it entirely. Tomorrow everything would end or begin. Selena turned on the shower, let hot water wash away blood and dirt while her brain calculated angles, strategies, lies that might become truth if spoken with enough conviction. Outside, Oslo continued existing. Unaware that in this anonymous safe house, a woman was preparing to walk into a room full of predators and convince them all simultaneously that she was somehow both their greatest asset and their worst mistake. The Alliance wanted coordination, the FBI wanted betrayal, Victoria wanted controlled chaos. And Selena Merrow wanted one simple thing, her brother alive and herself surviving long enough to see it. Everything else was just tactical decisions. And tomorrow would require the most important tactical decision of her life. Burn it down, the anonymous message had said. Maybe that was the answer. Maybe the only way to survive people trying to control you was to destroy the very structure they used for control. Maybe the Alliance needed to die so she could live. Selena stepped out of the shower, dried off, put on fresh clothes Victoria's people had provided, sat on the bed and started writing her story for tomorrow's meeting. The story that would either save her or condemn her. The story that would determine whether she became a legend or a cautionary tale. The story that would reshape the entire criminal underworld, or destroy it completely. Outside, night settled over Oslo like a blanket. And in Manhattan, Four crime lords prepared for a meeting that would change everything, not knowing that the woman they'd hired to coordinate their alliance was about to tear it apart, not knowing that survival sometimes required burning down the world, not knowing that Selena Merrow had finally stopped being afraid. And fear was the only thing that had kept her controlled. Tomorrow they'd learn what happened when someone smart, desperate, and completely done with being manipulated decided to stop playing their game. Tomorrow they'd discover that hiring the invisible waitress had been their first mistake, and their last. The private jet touched down at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey at 6:30 a.m. Manhattan's skyline glowed orange and gray across the river, the city waking up to another day of commerce and crime happening side by side like they always had. Selena hadn't slept on the flight. Couldn't. She'd spent 7 hours refining her story, rehearsing answers to questions she knew were coming, preparing for the moment when four international crime lords would decide whether she lived or died. Victoria's people had given her fresh clothes, professional, expensive. The kind of outfit that said, "I belong in rooms with powerful people," instead of, "I'm terrified and making this up as I go." Black suit, white blouse, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back severe and controlled. She looked like someone who coordinated international criminal operations. She felt like someone about to be executed. A car waited on the tarmac, different from Christina's Mercedes or Massimo's armored SUVs. This was Marcel's vehicle, understated luxury, French plates despite being in New Jersey. The driver opened the door without speaking. Selena got in. Marcel sat in the back seat reading a French newspaper, sipping espresso from a porcelain cup that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. He looked up when she entered. "Selena," he said in French, "you survived Oslo. Impressive." She answered in the same language. "I had help." "Yes. Victoria's organization is very efficient, also very dangerous. Do you understand what you've become by accepting their assistance? An asset to multiple competing organizations? A liability to all of them. The moment any syndicate discovers you're working with Victoria, they'll kill you. The moment Victoria decides you're more valuable dead than alive, she'll kill you. The moment the FBI realizes you destroyed their phone and chose criminal enterprise over cooperation, they'll arrest you. You're balancing on a knife edge. One wrong move and you fall." "I know." Marcel set down his newspaper, studied her face carefully. "Do you? Because you look calm, composed, like someone who has plan. But I've seen people with plans walk into that meeting room and leave in body bags. Having plan isn't enough. You need the right plan. And you're going to tell me what that is? No. I'm going to tell you what mine is. Then you can decide whether to align with it or not." The car pulled away from the airport, heading toward Manhattan through early morning traffic. Commuters heading to normal jobs, completely unaware that the woman in the French luxury sedan was about to attend a meeting that would reshape international criminal infrastructure. "Massimo is weak," Marcel said quietly. "More weak than anyone realizes. The alliance was his attempt to consolidate power, to shore up operations that are failing. But instead of strengthening his position, it's exposed him, revealed his vulnerabilities, made him desperate." "How desperate?" "Desperate enough to threaten your brother. Desperate enough to demand loyalty through fear instead of earning it through respect. Desperate enough to use your FBI contact as weapon against you instead of understanding that smart coordinator working with law enforcement might actually be valuable strategic asset." Selena turned to look at him. "You think working with the FBI could be useful?" "I think information flows both directions. FBI wants to take down criminal organizations. But which organizations? If someone intelligent were feeding them intelligence about rival syndicates while protecting friendly ones, that person would be extremely valuable, not betrayal, strategy." "You're suggesting I become a double agent." "I'm suggesting you become exactly what you already are. Someone working for everyone while loyal to no one except your own survival. The question is whether you're smart enough to do it successfully." The car crossed into Manhattan. Early morning sunlight turned glass towers into mirrors, reflecting the city back at itself endlessly. "What do you want from me?" Selena asked. "Selena, alliance restructuring. Massimo is currently positioned as first among equals, but he's incompetent leader. His threats undermine trust. His paranoia damages operations. His weakness invites federal attention. The alliance needs different leadership structure." "And you think you should lead it?" Marcel smiled. I think the alliance shouldn't have single leader, should be committee. 4 equals making decisions collectively. But for that to work, we need neutral coordinator who can mediate disputes, manage logistics, and prevent any one syndicate from dominating. We need you. Actually need you. Not as puppet or asset, as genuine partner. What's the difference? Partners get paid more. Partners get protected better. Partners get to make decisions instead of following orders. I'm offering you real power, Selena, not the fake power Massimo gave you when he hired you while threatening your family. Real authority to shape how this alliance operates. The car stopped at a red light. Pedestrians crossed in front of them, dozens of people living normal lives, completely unaware of the conversation happening 3 feet away. In exchange for what? Selena asked. In exchange for helping me remove Massimo from power. Not kill him, just marginalize him, reduce his influence, make him one voice among 4 instead of the voice that matters most. Can you do that? By telling the truth about what happened in Oslo? By telling the right truth, the truth that makes Massimo look incompetent and you look essential. The truth that convinces Nikolai and Christina and Giancarlo that the alliance needs restructuring with you as permanent neutral coordinator reporting to committee instead of to Massimo individually. Selena looked out the window. Manhattan stretched endless in every direction. 10 million people creating 10 million different versions of reality every single day.
If I do this, she said slowly, Massimo will try to kill me. Yes, but he'll fail. Because we'll protect you. Christina, Nikolai, Giancarlo, and I. 4 syndicates against 1. He can't win that fight. He knows it, which is why he'll accept the restructuring even though he hates it. And what happens to me after the restructuring?
You become the most powerful coordinator in the international criminal underworld. You manage an alliance worth billions. You have protection from 4 different syndicates. Your brother gets treatment for life. Your family never worries about money again. You live comfortable, successful life doing work you're genuinely good at. Work that's completely illegal. Work that exists whether you do it or someone else does. Might as well be you. Might as well be someone intelligent who can minimize harm while maximizing efficiency. Better than someone like Massimo who rules through fear and leaves bodies everywhere. The car started moving again. They were heading downtown toward the financial district where Velvet Dominion waited 3 stories underground. What if I refuse? Selena asked. Marcel's expression didn't change. Then you walk into that meeting alone. Massimo accuses you of betrayal based on Oslo. Christina confirms you failed her test. Nikolai expresses doubt about your capabilities. Giancarlo votes for execution. You die before lunch. Is that what you want? No. Then we have agreement. You tell the committee that Massimo's leadership style is destroying alliance trust, that his threats against you proved he cares more about control than coordination, that the alliance needs restructuring with collective leadership and neutral coordinator. I'll support you. Christina will support you. Nikolai will support you. Giancarlo will be convinced by the 3 of us. 4 against 1. Massimo loses. You win. Simple. Nothing about this was simple, but Marcel was right about one thing. Walking into that meeting without allies meant death. Aligning with Marcel at least gave her a chance. Okay, she said quietly. I'll do it. Marcel smiled. Excellent. One more thing. After the meeting, when the restructuring is approved, you'll receive a significant bonus. Compensation for the stress of the last few days. Consider it investment in our partnership. How significant? $5 million. Deposited in offshore account under name we both agree on. Accessible only to you. Insurance that we're serious about treating you as partner, not asset. Selena stared at him. $5 million. More money than she'd ever imagined having. More money than her family's entire debt. More money than Marcus's treatment would cost over a decade. Financial freedom. Real freedom. All she had to do was help Marcel destroy Massimo's authority. All she had to do was fully commit to being a criminal. Deal, she said. They arrived at Velvet Dominion 20 minutes later. The same private entrance, the same underground descent into luxury and violence. But everything felt different now. 3 days ago, she'd entered as a waitress. Now she was entering as a coordinator who just agreed to overthrow the most dangerous man in the room. The transformation was complete. Marcel walked beside her through corridors she used to navigate carrying trays and keeping silent. Security guards nodded to her now, showed respect, recognized her as someone who mattered instead of someone invisible. The private dining room waited on the third sublevel. Same mahogany table, same gold chandeliers, but the atmosphere was completely different. Charged, dangerous, electric with tension. All four syndicate leaders were already present. Massimo sat at the head of the table, exactly where he'd sat 3 nights ago. But his expression was different now. Harder, more calculating. He watched Selena enter with eyes that promised violence if she said the wrong thing. Christina sat to his right, cool and professional, her face revealing nothing. Nikolai sat across from her, massive and calm, copo maso, drinking vodka despite the early hour. Giancarlo sat at the far end, looking hostile and suspicious, his hand resting near his jacket where weapons were probably concealed. And Marcel took his seat smoothly, gesturing for Selena to sit in the chair that had been left empty. The coordinator's chair. Between all of them. Neutral position or target position, depending on how this went. Selena sat down. Her heart hammered, but her hands stayed steady on the table. She met each syndicate leader's eyes in turn, showing confidence she didn't entirely feel. Massimo spoke first. Director Marrow, thank you for joining us. We have questions about Oslo. I'm sure you do. Christina reports that you attempted independent operation without authorization, that you broke into a Norwegian customs facility, triggered police response, and barely escaped arrest. Is this accurate? Selena looked at Christina. The German woman's expression remained neutral. This was the moment. The choice. Support Marcel's version or tell the truth and hope for mercy. She chose Marcel's version. That's partially accurate, Selena said carefully. I did break into the facility, but not independently. I was following Christina's orders to examine evidence in the seized container. The police arrived earlier than expected because someone tipped them off. I suspect the same person who arranged the seizure in the first place. Christina's eyebrow raised slightly. Marcel hid a smile. Massimo leaned forward. You're suggesting the seizure was internal sabotage? I'm suggesting it was a test. One of several tests I've faced in the last 72 hours. Tests designed to evaluate whether I'm competent, loyal, and capable of handling this position. And who do you think arranged these tests? Selena met Marcel's eyes briefly, then looked back at Massimo. Multiple people, each syndicate testing me independently, seeing if I'd betray one to prove loyalty to another, seeing if I'd panic under pressure, seeing if I'd make mistakes that could be weaponized against me. Nikolai laughed deeply. Smart girl, she figured it out. Giancarlo grunted. Figuring it out doesn't mean she passed. Actually, Christina said quietly, she passed every test. Oslo included. I told her to examine evidence. She did. Police arrived early. My arrangement, yes, testing her escape capabilities. She escaped successfully with help from external resources she'd cultivated independently. That shows initiative and intelligence. Massimo's jaw clenched. External resources. You mean Victoria Ashford's organization? The room went silent. Selena felt ice flood her stomach. Massimo knew. Knew about Victoria. Knew about the intelligence connection. Knew she'd been working with a third party. This was it. The moment where everything either worked or catastrophically failed. Yes, she said calmly, refusing to show fear. Victoria's organization helped me escape Oslo, just like they've helped coordinate several other aspects of Alliance operations you don't know about, because their resources exceed ours in specific areas, and using them makes the Alliance more effective. You're working with intelligence contractors, Massimo said flatly, without authorization, without disclosure. That's betrayal. That's strategy, Marcel interjected. Victoria's organization has been useful to me for years. They provide information, logistics support, extraction capabilities. They're mercenaries, not law enforcement. They work for whoever pays them. Selena using them shows she understands how to leverage external resources. That's exactly what we hired her to do. We hired her to coordinate our operations, Massimo said, not to create independent intelligence networks. You hired her to be competent, Christina corrected. Competence requires using all available resources. Victoria's organization is a resource, one you apparently didn't know about, which raises questions about your intelligence capabilities compared to hers. Massimo's face flushed. Are you questioning my leadership? I'm questioning whether the Alliance benefits from single leadership at all. Christina said calmly. The last 3 days have revealed significant structural problems. Threats against the coordinator's family, unauthorized surveillance, competing tests that undermine trust, information silos where different syndicates have different intelligence. These are symptoms of centralized control that isn't working. Nikolai nodded slowly. She's right. Alliance was supposed to be partnership, equals. But Massimo has been treating it like his empire with the rest of us as subordinates. That's not what we agreed to. Giancarlo leaned back in his chair. So what are you suggesting? We remove him? We restructure, Marcel said. Committee leadership instead of individual authority. 4 syndicate leaders making decisions collectively. Neutral coordinator, Selena, reporting to all of us equally. No single person with override power. True partnership. Massimo stood up slowly. His hand moved to his jacket. Every security guard in the room tensed. Weapons appeared, held but not aimed. The moment balanced on a knife edge between negotiation and bloodbath. If you're planning a coup, Massimo said quietly, I suggest you reconsider, because starting a war inside the Alliance will destroy everything we've built. Nobody's starting a war, Marcel said calmly. We're suggesting governance modification. You remain equal partner. You maintain full control of your operations. You keep your territory, your resources, your authority. You just share decision-making power with the rest of us instead of treating us like subordinates. That's reasonable. And if I refuse, then the alliance dissolves, Christina said. I withdraw my operations. Nikolai withdraws his, Marcel withdraws his, Giancarlo withdraws his. You're left alone with your failing empire and federal investigations closing in. Is that what you want? Massimo looked at each of them in turn, calculating odds, measuring loyalty, understanding that he'd already lost this fight before it began. His hand moved away from his jacket. He sat down slowly. Committee governance, he said. Fine, but with conditions. Name them, Marcel said. All major decisions require unanimous vote. No 3-against-1 scenarios where I get outvoted constantly. True consensus or nothing. Agreed, Christina said. What else? The coordinator reports to committee but doesn't participate in voting. She implements our decisions but doesn't make them. Selena felt her moment slipping away. If she became just an implementer, she'd have no real power, just responsibility without authority. Perfect position to be blamed when things went wrong. She spoke before Marcel could agree. No. Everyone turned to look at her. No? Massimo repeated dangerously. No, Selena said firmly. I've spent 3 days being tested, threatened, manipulated, and nearly arrested. I've coordinated operations across 4 different syndicates while managing competing intelligence from multiple sources. I've proven I'm competent, intelligent, and capable of handling extreme pressure. I'm not doing all of that just to become a secretary who implements other people's decisions. Then what do you want? Giancarlo asked. Advisory vote. I report to the committee and provide recommendations. Committee votes on major decisions, but I get to present my analysis and offer my opinion. If the committee overrides my recommendation and things go wrong, that's on you. If you follow my recommendation and things go right, we share the success. Partnership. Real partnership. Massimo laughed bitterly. You want voting power? You've been doing this for 3 days and you think you deserve equal voice with people who've run criminal enterprises for decades? I think I deserve voice proportional to my contribution, Selena said, which over the last 3 days has been substantial. I reorganized Mediterranean shipping schedules. I identified competing operations that were undermining alliance efficiency. I developed relationships with external resources that strengthen our capabilities. I survived multiple tests designed to break me. What have you contributed to the alliance lately besides threats and paranoia? The room went absolutely silent. Selena had just directly insulted Massimo De Luca in front of his peers, challenged him openly. It was either suicide or the smartest move she could make. Massimo stared at her with murder in his eyes. But Nikolai started laughing, deep, genuine laughter that filled the room. I like her, he said in Russian, then repeated in English. She's got spine, more spine than any of us expected. Massimo, admit it. She's right. You've contributed threats. She's contributed results. Advisory vote seems fair. Christina nodded. I agree. She's earned voice at the table. Marcel smiled. Advisory vote? Recommendations presented to committee. We vote on implementation. She votes to break ties if we deadlock. Fair compromise. Giancarlo studied Selena carefully, then shrugged. Fine. She can have advisory vote. If she fucks up, we remove her. If she succeeds, she stays. Simple. All eyes turned to Massimo. He sat rigid in his chair, hands flat on the table, jaw clenched so tight his teeth probably hurt. His empire was being restructured around him. His authority was being diluted. His control was being stripped away piece by piece, and there was nothing he could do about it without destroying the alliance entirely. Fine, he said finally. Committee governance, advisory vote for the coordinator, unanimous decision-making on major issues. But understand this. He looked directly at Selena. You just made a very powerful enemy. The alliance protects you from external threats, but internal politics are a different game. You've chosen sides. Aligned with Marcel against me. That has consequences. I aligned with the alliance, Selena said calmly, not with any individual syndicate. If that makes me your enemy, that's your choice, not mine. Massimo stood up. We're done here. I'll have my lawyers draft the restructuring documents. Committee votes begin next week. Until then, operations continue as planned. Meeting adjourned. He walked out without another word. His security team followed. The remaining syndicate leaders relaxed visibly. The tension drained from the room like air from punctured tire. Christina poured herself wine. Well, that went better than expected. Did it? Giancarlo asked. Because Massimo looked like he wanted to murder everyone in the room. He did, Marcel said, but he won't. Because he's smart enough to know that starting internal war destroys the alliance and his last chance at survival. He'll be angry, resentful, difficult, but he'll comply. He has no choice. Nikolai raised his vodka glass towards Selena. To our new partner, the coordinator with spine, may she continue surprising us without getting killed. They drank. Selena felt something shift inside her chest. Relief, exhaustion, victory. She'd survived. Not just survived, won. Forced restructuring that gave her real power. Created position where she reported to committee instead of individual boss. Protected herself through alliances instead of submission. She'd done it. The invisible waitress who'd corrected a translation 3 days ago had just reshaped international criminal governance. One more thing, Marcel said, pulling out his phone. Your bonus. 5 million as discussed. Account details are being sent now. Congratulations, Selena. You're officially wealthy. Her phone buzzed. Bank transfer confirmation. $5 million. Just like that. More money than she'd ever dreamed of having. Marcus's treatment. Secured for life. Her family's debt. Erased completely. Her future. Completely transformed. All she'd had to do was become exactly what she'd sworn she'd never be. The meeting broke up slowly. Christina left first, professional and efficient. Giancarlo followed, still suspicious but apparently satisfied. Nikolai clapped Selena on the shoulder hard enough to hurt before departing with his security team. Marcel stayed behind. You did well, he said in French. Better than I expected, honestly. Most people would have collapsed under that pressure. You thrived. I survived. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, you just secured power that most people spend lifetimes trying to achieve. You're 27 years old and you're coordinating operations worth billions. That's not survival, that's success. Success built on lies and blood money. Marcel shrugged. All money is blood money if you trace it back far enough. The question is what you do with it. You're using it to save your brother's life. That's more noble than most rich people manage. Selena looked around the empty dining room. This was where it had all started. 3 days ago. A mistranslation. A correction. A choice to speak instead of staying silent. Everything had cascaded from that single moment. What happens now? She asked. Now you do the job. Coordinate operations. Manage the committee. Build the alliance into something that lasts. And if you're smart, which you clearly are, you prepare for the inevitable moment when Massimo tries to destroy you despite the alliance protection. Because he will try. Might take months. Might take years. But he will absolutely try. And how do I prepare for that? By making yourself so valuable that destroying you would damage the alliance more than it would hurt you. By building relationships with all 4 syndicates so no single one can move against you alone. By maintaining external resources like Victoria that give you options if things collapse. By being smarter than everyone trying to control you. You make it sound simple, And it's not simple. It's brutal and exhausting and will probably kill you eventually. But until then, you'll live better than 99% of humanity. You'll have money, power, protection. Your brother will be healthy. Your family will be secure. That's worth the cost. Isn't it? Selena didn't answer. Couldn't, because she didn't know anymore. Marcel left her alone in the dining room. She sat at the table where she used to serve drinks and cleared plates, sat in the coordinator's chair, felt the weight of everything she'd become settle onto her shoulders like physical burden. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She knew who it was before answering. "Congratulations," Victoria said. "You survived the committee meeting and secured advisory vote. Impressive." "You were listening." "We're always listening. That's what we do. And we're very pleased with how you handled Massimo. The alliance restructuring serves our interests perfectly. Distributed power means no single syndicate becomes too dominant, creates exactly the kind of balanced chaos we prefer." "I didn't do it for you." "No, you did it for yourself, which is why it worked. People can always tell when you're authentic. You genuinely wanted that power, genuinely believed you deserved it. That authenticity made you convincing. Well done." "What do you want, Victoria?" "To remind you that our arrangement continues. You feed us intelligence about specific operations. We provide resources and protection. Everyone benefits. Nothing changes just because you have fancier title now." "And if I refuse?" Victoria's voice hardened. "Then we reveal to the Alliance that you photographed their evidence in Oslo, that you've been working with us for days, that every piece of intelligence you've gathered is now sitting on our servers. The committee would consider that betrayal. Advisory vote or not, they'd kill you, slowly. Do we understand each other?" Selena closed her eyes. "Yes." "Excellent. We'll be in touch soon with specific requests. Enjoy your success, Director Marrow. You've earned it." The line went dead. Selena sat alone in the silence. She'd survived the committee, secured power, protected her brother, made herself wealthy, and trapped herself completely in a world where every alliance was temporary, every relationship was transactional, and trust was just another word for tactical advantage. The invisible waitress was gone forever. In her place sat someone powerful, dangerous, and completely isolated. Someone who'd won everything and lost herself in the process. Her phone buzzed. Message from Marcus. "Hey, doctor says I'm improving faster than expected. They're talking about reduced treatment frequency soon. I might get to come home for visits. Can you believe it? Thank you so much. I love you." Selena read the message 3 times. This was why. This was the whole reason. Her brother healthy, recovering, getting his life back, worth any price, any compromise, any transformation. She repeated it like a mantra, like prayer, like the only truth that mattered anymore. Worth it, had to be worth it. Outside, Manhattan continued existing. 10 million people living 10 million different versions of reality, completely unaware that 3 stories underground, a woman who used to be invisible had just become one of the most powerful criminals in the Western Hemisphere. Selena stood up, left the dining room, walked through Velvet Dominion's corridors one final time as the person she used to be. When she emerged onto Manhattan streets, the sunlight felt too bright, too clean, like it didn't belong in the same world she now inhabited. Her phone buzzed with encrypted messages, shipping schedules, customs contacts, intelligence reports. The Alliance operations continued moving forward, and she was expected to coordinate all of it, expected to be perfect, flawless, indispensable, or die trying. Selena walked to the nearest coffee shop, ordered black coffee, sat by the window watching normal people live normal lives. A young woman came in, maybe 25, wearing a waitress uniform from some nearby restaurant. She ordered coffee, checked her phone, looked tired and stressed and completely ordinary. Selena saw herself 3 days ago. The invisible server. The person nobody noticed. The woman burying intelligence beneath survival. She wanted to warn her, wanted to say, be careful what you speak up for. Be careful which moments you choose to stop being invisible. Because once you cross that line, there's no going back. But she didn't. Just watched the waitress leave, heading back to her shift, completely unaware of the trajectory that had just played out 3 feet away. Selena's phone rang. Christina. Business call. Already starting the coordination work. She answered, Director Marrow, we need to discuss Norwegian routes restructuring. Can you meet this afternoon? Yes. Send me the location. 3 p.m., my office. Bring analysis of current shipping patterns and recommendations for optimization. I'll be there. Professional, efficient, exactly what they'd hired her for. She hung up, drank her coffee, watched Manhattan move around her with complete indifference to her existence. 4 days ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was powerful. But power came with prices she was only beginning to understand. Her phone buzzed again. Message from an unknown number. The same one from Oslo. The mysterious friend who told her to burn everything down. You didn't burn it down. You restructured it. Interesting choice. More sustainable. More dangerous, too, because now you're embedded in the system instead of outside it. Now when it collapses, and it will collapse, you collapse with it. Hope you're prepared for that. Good luck, Director. You're going to need it. Selena stared at the message until the screen went dark. She'd made her choices. Chosen survival over destruction, power over escape, partnership with monsters over witness protection with the FBI. And now she'd live with those choices, for however long she lasted, which might be decades, might be months, might be until Massimo finally found an opening to destroy her, or until Victoria's organization decided she was more valuable dead than alive, or until the FBI built a case strong enough to bring down the entire alliance and everyone connected to it. But until then, she had power, money, protection. Her brother had treatment, her family had security. Her future had possibilities that hadn't existed 4 days ago. She'd transformed herself from invisible waitress into international criminal coordinator, from victim into player, from powerless into dangerous. And if the price was her soul, her integrity, her innocence, well, those had been dying slowly anyway, buried beneath years of humiliation and survival. At least now they'd died for something that mattered. At least Marcus would live. At least she'd proven she was more than what the world had reduced her to. At least she'd stopped being afraid. Selena finished her coffee, left the shop, headed uptown to prepare for Christina's meeting. The coordinator had work to do. The alliance had operations to manage. The game had new rules, but it continued playing, and she was all in now. No turning back, no escape routes, no safety nets, just forward, into whatever came next, into power and danger and impossible choices, into a life she'd built from nothing, using intelligence and ruthlessness and the willingness to become exactly what she needed to be to survive. The invisible waitress was gone. Director Selena Marrow walked through Manhattan sunlight with her head high, her shoulders back, her expression controlled, looking like someone who belonged in rooms with monsters, looking like someone who could survive in a world built on lies and blood, looking like exactly what she'd become. Not innocent, not clean, not the person she used to be, but alive, powerful, in control of her destiny for the first time in 6 years. And if that meant being the villain in someone else's story, the criminal in some federal file, the betrayer in multiple organizations' records, so be it. She'd chosen survival, chosen her brother, chosen power over virtue. The rest was just noise. Selena's phone buzzed one final time. Message from Marcel. Committee meeting next week. First official vote under new structure. We'll be testing whether the governance modification actually works or collapses immediately. Prepare thoroughly. Everything depends on it. See you then. M. She typed back. I'll be ready. And she would be. Because ready was all she had left. Ready for committee politics. Ready for Massimo's eventual revenge attempt. Ready for Victoria's intelligence demands. Ready for whatever came next in a world where trust was tactical and loyalty was transactional, and every relationship was just another negotiation. Ready to be the most dangerous person in the room, not through violence, through intelligence, through understanding power better than the people wielding it, through being the person nobody saw coming until it was too late to stop her. The waitress who'd corrected a translation had become the coordinator who'd restructured international criminal governance, from invisible to indispensable, from powerless to powerful, from victim to player. And the game was just beginning. Selena walked into Manhattan crowds and disappeared among millions of people living millions of different lives, just another face in the endless city. invisible again. But this time by choice. This time with power hidden beneath the surface. This time as someone who understood exactly how dangerous invisibility could be when wielded by someone smart enough to use it as weapon instead of weakness. The Alliance thought they controlled her. Victoria thought they controlled her. Massimo thought he'd survive long enough to destroy her. They were all wrong, because Selena Mero had learned the most important lesson the criminal underworld could teach. Power belonged to the person who could walk unnoticed into a room full of predators and leave controlling all of them. And she'd already proven she could do exactly that. The rest was just repetition, just survival, just the long game of staying alive in a world that wanted her dead. But she'd survived impossible situations before. She'd survive whatever came next, because survival was what she did best, and she was done apologizing for being good at it.